Yeah, I did a saying you're qualified to be on the ballot.
The first 2 years I was in this house, we really have issues with the animals. This year,
So,
the rabbits.
There it
every
is,
time I
wow.
plant 2
I'm gonna grab that.
great tomato plants that were already pretty much big and have little tomatoes planted in the garden. And the rabbits have even done so much to the original. $40 a piece. I have the babies sitting out here only as a reminder of $80 a piece. Note to self, an extra plant is so later in the day. Pardon me?
I said from up here, I usually garden.
My first year out there had to finish just about this little wall. And I offices in my background, so I can see out of it. I don't really know, and I'm watching the child watch over it.
I listened to voices, they're having trouble. I said they're having trouble.
Right now, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
They want it, they're gonna get it.
Sorry.
For the total.
Hey, really? No problem.
Stairs?
I got to send mine back and get one of my buddies. It's enough for me to drive back and forth to Charlotte.
Oh, yes.
That's 178,000 miles. The buyback on it is too much. It's 36. I counted them at 26, 25.
All live, so definitely pushing the info. Yeah, how are you?
You take the elevator?
Huh?
You take the elevator?
I can't hear.
You take the elevator?
No, did you tell?
Neither.
No. Every time there's a stair, I'll take it. As much as possible. Up to 104 flights now.
Yes. 100% could.
Oh, good.
Pouring concrete at 10 in the morning if you're bored. Pouring concrete, 7 yards in the infield, scale pad. Oh yeah.
What'd you get all dolled up for?
Well, that way you can't drive by and throw something in it. Have a crew guy stand there with a sandbag, throw 15, 20 pounds inside in a heartbeat.
What'd you get all dolled up
I'm trying to compete with you.
for? Look like you've been to Hawaii.
Now that's live.
I am not saying any bad words.
Okay, well, I'm just warning you. I was fair warned, so I thought proper and just to fair warn you. Good, you?
Looks like you've been out in the sun a little bit.
A little bit. There's very little shade over there. And the grass is about to get mowed.
Remind me when we leave here to stop downstairs and get one of those forms to turn in. I still have yet never turned in a committee.
Oh my land.
I've saved the taxpayers thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars.
Single-handedly.
Just because I can't remember to turn in my paperwork. Maybe I'm just volunteering. I love my job so much.
Good. Right?
It's actually from Game of Thrones. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones? Well, that one of the little guys on that said, I drink it. even gave me a gentle reminder to do it. Well, here's the deal. I mean, I'm fine now, but I had a biopsy done. What day did I have that? Tuesday. And I didn't get very good news, but I'm fine now. Some concerning tissue changes in my breast.
We got some.
Especially since I'm 99% breast. But anyway, everything turned out fine. I mean, it will be fine. So I've been a little preoccupied.
Yeah, I can appreciate it.
Like physically, I can feel it. But then in the end, it's not normal.
As soon as I got off work, they got stuff like that. So they got all the So as soon as I got there, I just said I got it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good point. They got it. You know, I still got grocery.
Just give it to Brian and Brian will bring it up. My dog, Larry, my new dog that I'm in love with, ate my glasses last night.
It's not cool, Larry.
No, I know.
Not cool at all.
I know, but how can you be mad at him? Because he's so doggone cute. Yes, he's a cute dog. That's our dog.
Okay. This coming?
Yes. Just got me early.
6?
Yeah.
This is him waiting for me to get home from work. But, yeah, he ate my glasses. Well, these are cheaters. My other glasses have like trifocals in them because I can't see nothing.
You're supposed to wear them up and on, and I wear the readers on my nose. I guess people don't like the readers.
Okay, well, I wish that I had LASIK done because, like, I could not see 5 inches in front of my face. I was blind. My glasses I had to pay extra so they wouldn't be like pop, you know. But I had LASIK done, and I don't know if it's because I was older when I was done or what, but it screwed up my up close vision. Like I can't see anything up close. So I have to wear cheaters.
Yeah, but the LASIK good to see all.
No, blind as a bat. So,
I can see mine.
no, like, I had my first pair of bifocals when I was 27 years old. My arm is not long enough for me to be able to read I pulled that paper like that.
Yeah, I got it on.
It's probably because we're used to working looking through our glasses. But I can read fine. If you see me on the road, you might want to pull over. So I can get a new pair of glasses.
Yeah. Had, who were you there?
I'm gonna try and get past this. Oh, okay.
What's that? Yeah. Yeah. We had 99 last week.
That's a good thing, right?
Got down to 1028. The lineup for the next race. Yeah. And no, he puts them in the back so the driver they can look at them on their phone later.
Oh, way behind.
I'd love to get away from the paper. Good, but it gets so full of dirt. It wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, he played a fair bill.
I don't know.
So we looked at this there.
Air ties, filters. See downtown, right there.
There's a lot of things. I'm gonna face my
Just have to buy some more.
I took shirts and it's still pop up.
Across the ground, by the time you go up the hole and down in the hole and then the next hole, 350 feet down. Going underground. God, I have to. Oh, the pole broke.
Because we need to.
It's very,
Start with that. I'll be right back.
Hi, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the Shelby County Board meeting on June 8th to order. We'll start the meeting off with a pledge of allegiance followed by the prayer. We all stand for pledge of allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, thank you for this opportunity to serve you in this manner tonight. I pray that you keep your hand upon us tonight and give us wisdom to conduct the business that we need to conduct. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett. Here. Teresa Bain. Here. Cody Brand.
Here.
Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole. Here. Charles Davis. Julie Edwards.
Here.
Martha Bernhaber. Here. Clay Hardy.
He is here.
Matt Kessler.
Here.
Annette Martin. Tad Mayhall.
Here.
Keith McCormick. Tim Morse.
Here.
Lori Nelson. David Ogden.
Here.
Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross.
Here.
Mitchell Shuck.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Brent Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next is the approval of the minutes from the May 11th meeting. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Matt Kessler, seconded by Jeremy. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the agenda, we will go straight to number 6 with Heather Wade from the Probation Department. Heather, you have the floor.
Sorry.
We can go to the next if you need.
No, I'm good. I
All
just
right.
I was expecting other stuff. So I met with the finance committee in May about vacation days for the probation department. I had provided you all a copy with our current vacation policy, the proposed vacation policy, and the union contract, a copy of the union contract that was provided to me. So I submitted to the chief judge new policy. He approved it, but advised that I should take it before the board to make sure everyone was aware of the changes, make sure there weren't any issues, see if there were any questions. So that's what I'm here for.
What are the highlights and changes?
So the top one is the old, the next one will be the new. So you'll see it changes from 2 to 10. After 2 years, or after 5 years, it goes to 15.
Okay.
So that was what was approved in the union. I'm basically just following along for my employees. And since you pay fringe benefits, it doesn't come out of my budget. It comes out of the county budget. So it's the 029, and that's why I'm bringing it to you.
Okay.
So you all know, it's not in my budget. So our fringe benefits last year were around $55,000. So that's an expense that if the person were to leave, they would be paid vacation days. So out of the county's funded budget, not my salary budget that's refunded by the state. So I'm just simply here to make sure everybody's okay with it. If there's an issue or a question.
Didn't you tell us at the finance meeting that there was only maybe one employee that this would affect anyway as it stands?
That's why I'm here now. So my department's very new. I don't accumulate days anymore with the CMO position, kind of like the elected officials. So I have past time that I had collected before I was promoted. But so I have one employee right now that has 5 years. So it would be something she would gain 5 days, and her hire date is up. So I wanted to do it so she could have them for the current time and then going into next year, because she would be entitled to them now. The other two, I have one coming up on a year and one with 2 months. So it really won't affect them at all for a few years. Hopefully they're still there. So.
Mark had a comment here.
Yes, I talked with Heather prior to the finance committee meeting, so we kind of had an idea what was going to happen in comparison here, and then with the finance committee. And I believe the finance committee was all in favor of matching these,
I think we were, yes.
was our recommendation, so that all employees, whether they be union or non-union, would have the same number of vacation days.
Thank you, Mark.
Streamlines bookkeeping too. Mark?
I just have a question because I can't remember back to May, Heather, but there's still plenty of room in the 029 budget to cover this. This isn't going to create any issues or strains on that line item?
I have not looked at the 029. I mean, I have a copy of it. I really focus on my own. The only time I get interested in 029 is, so I would have to ask probably the treasurer if she's here. I don't know. I don't have that budget in front of me. I have my budget's in front of me. I don't know what that is. I don't expect to pay out on them this year. Their vacation, it's an employee who intends to take the time. If we're looking at, is it going to be paid out? Her intent is to have 5 extra vacation days because she
She wants the time, basically. We don't pay out for them. That would
So
be
the
if
payout
somebody
comes if
left.
they were to happen to leave and.
Yes.
and take those days.
Yeah, that's if she were to say, I got a better job tomorrow. And yeah, unfortunately, we would have to pay those extra days. But I don't know that line item. I know our fringe benefits were about $55,000. But that's just Medicare, insurance. You know, I don't take insurance, it depends on who takes what.
So, Cody?
I make a motion to just approve it.
Yes, and a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Brent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brand,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Abstain?
Martha Fernhaver,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Robert Gorman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion passes. Madam Clerk and Julie, if you would just vote no.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but in this situation, it would be wise to vote no.
It's always been abstain for family members. I understand your point, that we typically just
Right.
abstain. But yeah, I mean, and I understand why.
Yeah.
I would advise the same.
Okay.
Because an abstention calls with a favoring vote.
Gotcha.
And I knew that, I know that, but I didn't know what. Okay.
So then I have just a couple other updates if you want them now, if you don't, because I'm not really up for that. Just a few things that are changing. The staff is still the same, thankfully. The annual plan for the AOIC, I know that you all know that I do that. Some of you know I do an annual plan for the state. Used to be due 45 days after our budget, which was September 1. State has gone to a July to July, so it's going to be due in August this year. So I know when it comes into play at times because of raises. Our raises are given by performance appraisals, and our COLA is set by the chief judge. So the cost of living came out at 5%, and the max for performance appraisal would be ×2. So that's a 10%, could be up to a 10% raise. You will not be funding that. That's funded by the state. That depends on where they fall in the performance appraisal. So that's going to just change. I don't know, I have to speak with some of the other department heads and see how that will affect the budget, and then I usually take it in front of the finance committee if there's anything that I'm going to have a shortfall for. And then I intend to ask for the same raise that the union members are getting from our administrative assistant, the only one that's funded by the county. So, which I believe is $1 an hour, is what they're up for this year. So that would be my intent with that. The weapons policy that was approved was returned by the state. It was approved by the judge, the county board, the state's attorney at the time. They wanted some changes. I have updated the policy as requested and given it to our state's attorney for review once it's returned. I'll be resubmitting it. I'm expecting approval this time, but just so you all know, we haven't started that process because I need that full policy approved by the state, and then we'll start psychological assessments and we'll start training, which I'll be asking for probably more funding in that budget line item. As far as budget, we're under budget right now. Jessica was kind enough to provide us all an update, 9-month update. A few line items that we expected, they're out of our control. And then I think that's it. And then if anybody wants to know later, I have prepared all the numbers. Every now and then I have board members that stop in. What's your active caseload? What does it look like? What are you doing? So I've prepared those numbers. They'll be in my office. I won't bore you with them tonight. And I just ran you out some comparisons for other counties. So if anybody wants them, they can stop in and I'll do them.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Ted?
For those that did not have a chance to attend the drug court graduation last week, I want to make sure that you are publicly recognized for the phenomenal, not only the program, but the job that you guys do with that. So thank you for that. It was my first time, and it was moving for sure.
Thank you, and that's the team. And just so you know, if it wasn't for Shelby County Human Services here, it would not happen. They provide mental health, they provide substance abuse counseling, they are part of the team. I appreciate that, but there's a lot of hard work that goes on. I just now have to sit back and coordinate, so it kind of stinks for me. But it's beneficial when it works. It's awesome to watch. So I thank you, and like I said, the officer, Ms. Durbin, is doing amazing, the support staff, Ms. Ambrose, Brenda, they're all doing great, fitting in and helping. But Shelby County Community Services is where that really needs to go. Those counselors do amazing work.
It also takes solid leadership, so take that for what you will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is Jessie McCluskey. She's the County Director of the U of I Co-op Extension. You have the floor.
Good evening, thank you. We'll take a few moments of your time to give you a quick update on where we're at with U of I Extension. Since the last time I was here, which was about a year ago, I believe you should have some information that was sent out ahead of time with some facts about Extension and what we've been working on. We have some core program areas, at least that's what I refer to them as in our unit. And Shelby County is very active with our youth development program, which is also the 4-H program. You'll notice that we've been in contact with well over 300 students, whether that's in the school programming that we do, or the over 200 4-H members that are in our clubs or spin groups. We've offered over 24 workshops this past year for the youth, where they've come in and they've learned visual arts, they did fiber, visual arts, sports fishing, robotics, cooking classes, and then of course they're working on projects getting ready for the 4-H fair, which I will point out is scheduled for July 17th through the 19th, and we invite all of you to come join us at the fair and see their hard work in action. Some of the other programs that we have, which is our Family Life program. Family Life provides just that programming throughout the life of your family, from the chaos of raising children to also caregiving of perhaps a parent at some point in time. We also have some programs that focus on active aging and brain health. So we have a popular program called Wits Fitness, and we hold that about monthly here in Shelby County, and we've seen over 100 participants within that program over this past year, and we are growing some of our health-related programs. And our SNAP Ed program, you might have heard of Partners in Produce. It's something I'm very proud of that we have in our unit. Partners in Produce provided over 7,000 pounds of fresh produce into our local food pantries. Sometimes we donate our canned goods and we're lacking that fresh produce, and so we were able to infuse food pantries in the county with fresh produce. And additionally, new this year that we had was our deer donation program, and lean protein at a affordable cost. Everything's getting a bit higher these days, so at an affordable cost, the food pantry was really helpful. We had over 500 pounds go into the food pantries here in Shelby County. I do believe that is kind of the key highlights that I wanted to give you today. We're working hard on this coming summer, and in fact, we're about to gear up into the really busy time, especially in the 4-H world. And I just wanted to say that you have in this county some of the most stellar staff. I oversee 5 counties, so that's Coles, Cumberland, Douglas, Shelby, and Moultrie counties, and the Shelby staff are knocking it out of the park here. I'm really proud of them, and you should be as well. So thank you for having a wonderful workforce for me. And on that note, we are at that time of year where we're budgeting, and so I do kindly ask for continued funding as you have in the past. And this year I've requested an increase at 5%. We've not requested an increase in the past few years, and so this will be the first increase in funding, just to help with our increase in costs as when it comes to the program, supplies, utilities, just the day-to-day business expenses. So with that, that is my quick update and
approve the U of I extension agreement, tax levy request for $77,000, payable in 24. Motion. Moved by Martha, seconded by Dave. Any questions for Jesse while she's here? Done.
This has nothing to do with, I'm not against the money, but what's happening with this, with where we're changing our budget here? Is that going to have any effect on how we should levy this?
So, are you familiar with our fiscal shift?
Yes, and I actually had some email communication with, I believe, the accounting firm or contact, and it really doesn't affect what we're doing today because of our 2 different fiscal years.
So the monies will fall in wherever they fall.
Yeah.
So a motion?
Is this its own separate levy? Right?
Yes, I believe
Sounds
it's.
right?
It is.
Yeah, it is. And is it, I'm assuming the 5% increase is doable with the levy, is that the
The
max?
CPI will be 5%.
And that's okay.
So if we approve the levy today, and the funds aren't, hypothetically, then the funds are short, then we revisit this and then adjust the levy, I assume, so. But, any further questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
No.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
No.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Shuff,
No.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 16 ayes, 4 noes. Cody Brands, Lori Nelson, Sonny Ross, and Mitchell.
All right, motion carries. Item number 8 is, Matt, do you want to give the highway report or is anybody else here?
There is no highway report, it's just these items, yeah.
Okay. So the first on the agenda is the retention bonus for the total amount of $15,000 for the position of county engineer to be paid on the anniversary day of employment each year for 3 years in increments of $5,000 per year. The first year anniversary is $5,000, the second year is $5,000, the third year is $5,000. Entertained motion. Mark makes the motion, and second by Brent. This is what we discussed last month. So is there any further questions on this? Hearing none.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Is this the additional 15,000 or is this the original 15,000?
This is last month when Tad raised the idea of adding a 15 as a retention. That's the origin of this.
Okay, okay.
So we said we bring it up in the committee because we could not change that agenda item at that time.
So last month was the sign on, this is retention. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
No.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
No.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 18 ayes, 2 nays, Bang and Cole.
Item B is resolution to approve ARPA funds in the amount of $15,000 to cover the cost of the retention bonus for the county engineer. Motion on that. Martha makes a motion, and a second. got Clay. You know, I've been thinking about what your name is for the last day and a half. But I talked to you the other day.
Glad it came to you at the last minute.
Yeah, a little prompting. So, motion by Martha, second by Clay. Any discussion? Tad?
So with the funding of this coming from ARPA, it puts us on a time limit, correct?
Correct.
In theory, this position's not hired by the end of the year. This will have to be revisited because you can't go 3 years beyond, right, beginning of next year.
That's a good point.
It has to be obligated by next year and then we have to 26.
Payout.
The payout, yeah.
Correct.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C is a resolution to approve ARPA funds in the amount of $150,236.70 to cover the cost of a new tandem that was ordered 2 years ago and is now ready for purchase and possession. Motion by Matt, seconded by Brent. Any discussion? Sonny?
Can you help me understand why a truck was ordered that wasn't funded?
It was funded,
So why are you asking me for $150,000 more?
and then 2 years later, it's not funded. And what's happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but what's happened is we went from 2 years ago, I do believe we would have approved the funding. Spencer would have ordered the truck. Then we had an exchange of engineers, and then we lacked an engineer in the last budget development. Therefore, it wasn't put in the budget. So we had an obligation 2 years ago, and they finally came through.
So where did the money go?
It was budgeted but not spent 2 years ago, is that correct?
It was approved. It was approved. And whether it was budgeted, those funds are grants and things of the nature, so that's beyond. Matt, would you like to follow up?
One of the things that's been the biggest strain on the highway department budget has been not having an engineer and the cost that causes. That's been the real thing that's strangled the budget. It's put such a burden on it because everything that you do now requires a PE stamp, all designs, all progress, and when you don't have a PE stamp in-house, it costs a lot of money. This helps save and take some pressure off of the highway department. So, and we think it's a good use of ARPA funds because it has county-wide impact. We have the truck, it's sitting in the garage, we just can't use it until we pay for it.
Are you saying that the $150,000 was set aside and spent somewhere else?
Yeah, if you calculate over the last couple of years, off and on, having an engineer, 4 years without between Spessard and Stephen, and then a year now, we are at a year in a couple of days of not having an engineer, has a tremendous cost. It can be calculated, and it's a lot.
I would correct the statement of it was budgeted because those funds are there and then we approve them as they go out. So assuming, and this is going back 2 years of memory, there's always going to be the funding for the highway department, so we could approve the funding for the purchase. Now it's time to settle up.
Correct.
And so it wasn't necessarily budgeted specifically for this, but there was funds there that was approved for it. So since the funds were approved for it, the truck was ordered.
Correct.
Julie, Mark, and Tad will go right in that order.
Who ordered the truck?
It would have been a cooperative effort between the engineer at the time, Mr. Spessard, and Mr. Prosser.
So it's taken 4?
2 years.
Alan's only been gone 2 years?
Correct.
Okay.
October
That's right, he
2021.
he retired not long after.
Yeah,
Okay.
October 21, this is 23.
Okay.
Mark?
I would also like to add that, if I'm not mistaken, this is the original price that it was 2 years ago.
Yes, it's 200,000 now.
That's their.
Yes, so it would be considerably more. Unfortunately, they are honoring that price.
Yeah, we're lucky they're on the price.
Yeah, that's a. Ted?
Just for language clarification, the money was allocated, correct? Would that be a better way to say it, just for clarification? It was allocated at the time, set aside, knowing there was going to be a 2-year delay,
Not knowing there was going to be a 2-year delay.
or knowing there might be a delay, but it was allocated through ARPA, correct?
No, it was, the funds were approved to be spent.
Right.
There wasn't any ARPA at that point in time. So that would have been a highway department expenditure.
Mr. Chairman, I will add one thing too that I probably should have added. So there's been some serious equipment that's failed, that's had to be repaired, and that has been considerably expensive. An excavator, for example, overhauling, several trucks with major repairs. As the equipment gets older, and it costs more to replace equipment than it does to buy one, then you need to get new equipment. And so that's why they started to do this. And so some unforeseen factors of a massive expense has caused strain. And that's why we're asking for this.
I have Sonny, and I'll come back over here.
And I absolutely appreciate everything you're saying and can relate to it. And I don't have a problem with it. I'm grateful that they're holding the price. My concern is not buying the truck and not the $150,000. My concern is we bought a truck 2 years ago that we didn't set money aside for. So now we have a truck, and I think no one's going to have the answer to that question. But that's my position, that's my concern. Not whether or not we need it, not whether or not it's a good price. It's just apparently a truck was ordered that the money was not set aside for, and now here we are 2 years later, we got to cough it up somewhere.
I think the money was set aside in the previous budgets. But my question was, I wanted Matt to explain what happens if this ARPA doesn't get approved, what happens to the situation, the truck being there, and also how do we pay it if we don't?
So yeah, it's not pretty. We would be forced to make probably 3 to 4 payments every month until we pay for the truck. And we would have to move money around through different funds. It would be things that the auditors would have to approve. It would be a challenge to do that. And still, at the end of all that, you still have a strained budget.
So to back up on your concern, if the funds were approved in 21, and then the funds were budgeted in 22, then in 23, with the lapse of management, the funds were not budgeted. And now we're here in 23 without funds budgeted specifically for it. Do you have any other comments, questions, David?
Just so everybody is aware, in the 23 budget coming forward on line item 08-54-100 equipment purchase, there hasn't been allocated $190,000. So I don't know if that's for equipment going forward as well. But so it's not sitting empty as far as there is money allocated for keeping some equipment current.
And with any budgeting rule of thumb, when you're talking about government budgeting, the funds are typically there, but in order to be spent, they have to be budgeted. Well, last year they weren't budgeted, therefore it takes a special approval or a move with ARPA funds to then release the funds for the purpose.
So there's no line item in their current budget to pay up for a $150,000 truck?
Well, according to that, there is.
There is a line item for $190,000 with $179,000 left over.
Yeah.
But if you use that line item, then take 150 for the truck, which wasn't technically thought of or budgeted coming into that budget, you're leaving that department with almost nothing from now until the end of this budget.
I guess my point was just to say that we're not, if we take it all out of here, then we have nowhere to go. If the ARPA is there, we need to use it. We don't have to spend the 190, but if something happens in '23, we do have money budgeted, but we don't have to spend it.
Right.
That number was submitted by Stephen before he left. And once he left, it's created a considerable amount of cost with him being in the absence of an engineer. So, yeah, it's there, but like all the other things I said, they still come into play. And I guess the greater question is it a significant and proper use of ARPA money? I think it is.
Yeah, I agree, it is a significant, yes.
There's $3.3 million available from the ARPA funding that I have right now in my report. I think that we need to pay for the truck.
Yeah. Mark?
If this truck would have came in time, I'm guessing we probably would have already maybe ordered an additional truck to replace what we had. And
That's correct.
We've used money to try to keep up what we had because we didn't get the truck at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a young man who's designated to drive that truck when it gets purchased. He's driving an 01 right now, 2001, and we're eager for him to be jumping in 2023 if he can.
Any other questions, comments? We had a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Yes. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Nat Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lauren Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
No.
Mitchell Shep.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 19 ayes, 1 nay, Ross.
Okay, next is the resolution to create the position of administrative assistant to the Shelby County Highway Department. Take a motion. Cody, seconded by Brett. Any discussions on the resolution? Teresa?
Go ahead,
We'll come
Pat.
back.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, obviously, this is high visibility item, so there's going to be a fair amount of discussion here with questions. And some of it comes from the agreement, and some of it's going to come just because I don't understand a few things. But just starting off with a grievance being filed, right? What's the consequence? We hire the position, right? We approve position, we hire the position. In theory, the grievance is validated, determined. Position was not valid, right? Whether it's 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Labor, the department comes out and says, no, you couldn't do that. What's that consequence? Is it going all the way back, backdating, recouping pay that was paid out in that time frame? What are those consequences for this until that's resolved?
So the question of whether it's valid or not is not a question. I think you mean, the question is, does the union and the county disagree on whether the position requires representation? The county can create positions because the county, through its elected representatives and heads of agency, is who runs the county, not another group. So under the managerial rights of Article 2 in the contract, the county has the managerial rights to create positions, which it did. That item alone is not what the union is contending, and they're not contending its validity that I understand. There has been a grievance, and like I mentioned, the basis of that is a representation for the position. Whether or not the position goes ahead, and there's a lingering question about it, process about it going on, grievance, does not affect the position, as I see it.
Well, no disrespect, how you see it's not the law, right? I mean, so what have we exposed ourselves to potentially, right? So opinions in this situation, from me, from you, are really not valid as much as it is. If Labor Department, Labor Board comes down and says no.
Says no to what, Tad?
No, that this should not have been done, right? Right, there is a complaint, there is a grievance, correct?
But
What are the
they
consequences if the grievance is upheld?
What are they grieving, Tad?
Sir, you're the chairman of that committee, so I'll ask you.
Well, you just said that, I think you just said you knew the law, or you said you know what the
I didn't
grievance
say
is.
that at all. I said quite the opposite, that I don't know the law, but I'm asking if this is upheld, the grievance is upheld, what is the consequence?
What is the grievance, Tad?
Again, it's your committee. Please inform us what the grievance is.
So the grievance is representation of the position. The position is going to be created. They're contending that they represent the position.
And if they win,
The position will still stand, whether or not they're successful or not.
so then does that affect what the pay scale would be, what the benefits would be, considering some of the benefits are, on the higher side of what the rest of the county employees based on tenure and experience would be? If it does require representation, then does that take the candidate back or the employee back with a recoupment of pay and loss of potential benefits?
Well, based upon that job description, that particular pay rate is correct, based upon that job description and what that person's being asked to do in that professional position.
Well, we can discuss that when we get into the particular contract, but again, I'm just asking for what potential, consequences there are for not only the board, but also the potential employee is what the consequences can be, and I haven't heard an answer yet.
Well, it's a process, and we don't know the end of that process yet. I will tell you that we've had a grievance, and our state's attorney will vigorously defend the interests of the county.
Sure.
All right, Cody, back here.
So this is a new position, so what would happen, I would assume, would be we would have to sit down with the union, write an MOU of the new position, if it was deemed from the courts that it should be under contract. As far as seniority, it's a new position. So that person would stay there, but the bookkeeper would be open. So that might be a seniority-based thing.
Well, I guess to that point, though, that's part of the roles and responsibilities of what we're going to be asked to approve, right, is bookkeeping responsibilities. So then we're parsing out the roles.
Not necessarily, because a bookkeeper is one certain job description. This is a completely other set.
Yeah, it's two different positions here. The administrative assistant position is being created. The bookkeeper, which is representative, is staying as unfilled right now.
Staying intact. It's staying intact.
Staying intact, just
Right.
unfilled right now.
So Matt, another question would be, so like let's say we get a highway engineer and he wants to fill the bookkeeper. He has the authority to do that.
Absolutely. The bookkeeper secretary position is only going to be vacated at this time. It's not eliminated, it's vacated. And if we had a head of agency there, they would certainly make those decisions. And one of the things I'll just say, why this is important, why is this happening? Well, if you look at the modern engineering office, they need an administrative assistant. They need somebody that complements the work that he's doing, relieving him of significant, varied, and intellectual administrative things. That is what makes the office attractive to an engineer that wants to come in. That somebody's in that position and they have the interests of the county and the engineer, not the interests of anything else or anyone else.
Thank Teresa back here.
All the duties that was done at that desk was done by an ASME union member. She even created the last bunch of stuff that was approved by this board, that they approved for the claims this last time. I don't know how anybody can say they're creating a new position because all the job duties that were done at that desk were done by Jess. And Jess is the one who left. They can give it any kind of a flowery title they want to, and put administrative assistant on it. The bottom line is, those duties that were performed at that desk were Jess's, and Alan helped Jess learn those duties, and it has went forward since Alan's left. And Jess has done them at, what was it, secretary, bookkeeper position. So now you're trying to create an administrative assistant to do the same jobs that Jess did.
So was she going above and beyond her job responsibility?
Probably she was. Probably she
That's why
was.
she left.
Probably she was, wasn't she? She
Well,
was good at what she did.
she's the one who wanted to create this administrative assistant position.
But she did all those duties as a secretary bookkeeper.
But they're not gonna get paid for that. She's wanting paid for that. And the person that comes in.
She's
that's
not
doing-
there now, so we don't have to worry about
Well,
that.
that's
But
what-
all
well,
the duties
exactly.
were done by her.
But she was doing an administrative assistant position. She was doing them job titles.
She was doing what was put on her desk to do, and she did
Right.
it.
All right, so she was going above and beyond her
Yeah.
call of duty.
Whatever,
And that's why
but she did.
there's a separation that needs to happen. And Martha,
I was just gonna say, it is a separation of duty. She was doing them both because necessity.
necessity.
She wanted, is my understanding, I could be wrong, she had requested more pay. At one point, she got more pay. But she had also, if I correct, Matt, she had requested for that position to be removed from the union herself.
She did.
Okay.
Laura?
Do I understand that she was in a union position of a specific bookkeeper role, and she was going outside of her contract and doing some, like, outside work?
I don't know if there was a job description that covered everything she did.
Would it not, would a bookkeeper's position that's in the union not have a job description?
I bet if you go in this courthouse and ask all these offices if they have job descriptions, not gonna know yet.
Well, I'm asking about this one, because it sounds like you're saying that she was, you're saying going above and beyond. Was she going outside of her contract? That's my question.
Yes.
She was?
She had to. It was out of necessity that she does all this.
We have a motion. Cody makes, do we have a motion on the floor?
Cody moved, Brent seconded.
Yeah, Cody motion, seconded by Brent. Any other further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we're voting on the creation of the administrative assistant position. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No,
Teresa,
do roll call. Let's do roll call. So you got it.
well, we've got the three here. We've got Tad, Tim, and Teresa, and Carol. That's no votes. So that makes 14 and 4.
16 and 4.
All right, motion carries. Item E. Additional sign-on bonus of $15,000 for the position of county engineer to be added to the original sign-on bonus of $15,000. Total sign-on would be $30,000. Is this printed correctly?
This is correct.
Okay. You
So
want a motion?
in the last, yeah, I'll make a motion. We'll discuss.
In a second. Matt makes a motion, seconded by Tim Brown. Now discussion.
So the idea of a $30,000 sign-on bonus does have precedent in Illinois to get a civil engineer. And we went ahead and added to the original 15. This is a request to add another 15 onto that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second discussion. Adam?
Yeah, so you say the precedent in the state of Illinois, the precedent is,
Greene County, for example, they created a $30,000 sign-on bonus, and it was pretty successful after they did it.
So one county is the precedent?
It is a precedent, yeah. All it takes is one.
Why not move it back then and make it more retention versus upfront? I mean, these positions, when hired for, are 6-year terms, right? Why not create an incentive to stay versus we're back to where we were last month, and I'll take 30 grand in the first 6 months of my year and see you.
This is wide open if anybody wants to weigh in on the terms of it.
I mean, there's still no incentive to stay, but there's more of an incentive to take a lot of upfront money.
I understand.
I have Martha here.
We are in desperate need of a county engineer. I'm desperately, right? We're getting close to the timeline. We're getting close to losing motor fuel tax money. You hate to say it, but we got to nail that carrot. And if I would like to think with a $30,000 sign-on bonus, that maybe we don't just get one candidate, maybe we get 2 candidates, maybe we get 3 candidates, maybe we get 4 candidates, and we actually have a choice for who we select and put into that position. Do you run the risk to take the 30? Yeah, but every day we run a risk, right? Every single day we run a risk. Bellwether told us when the ARPA funds came in, and there was a discussion about the sheriff's department and the ARPA bonus pay or extra pay. Bellwether said, in the bonuses, right? Bellwether advised that previous board, do not give the money up front because there'll be no retention. Their recommendation was to make it a retention bonus. And what happened? How many folks out of that department collected their check and walked out the door? So, do we run a risk? We run a risk. We are in desperate need of a county engineer. And I think we've got to make it as attractive as we possibly can to get someone qualified in here.
Thanks, Sonny.
So my question is our salary that we're advertising for county engineer 30,000 short of the mark? I don't know if that may be a question for you.
The salary is.
The salary is set by IDOT. There's a minimum set right now for Shelby County. I believe it's $117,000.
Salary is set by the board, according to statute.
Wrong.
No, it's not.
It's set by IDOT as a minimum.
It's set by IDOT, approved by the board. It's one of the,
Now the board can go.
it's kind of like the state attorney's
Above
salary.
that.
It's set by the state, and then we approve it.
Well, then I'd like to think that they probably have a little bit more insight as far as cost of living and adjustment and work for a particular county. But I can't imagine we're $45,000 off comparable counties.
I think one of the biggest discrepancies actually falls in private sector engineers versus government engineers. That's where the biggest discrepancy falls in. And I think this is where the committee is recommending to try to close that gap. Not completely, obviously, but
it's once.
To close it.
Right, we're sprinting to pay up front to then get experience to go back to the private sector. If you're telling me we're trying to sprint to keep up the private sector, it's a temporary sprint. You'll never win the long run, especially with making this upfront money versus retention. There's no incentive to stay. And quite honestly, I've talked to the employees out there, right? There's very little incentive to stay at that department right now. Very little. Despite it's a great place to work, I tell you, I've had conversations the last 2 weeks with most of them. That is not the case. There is no incentive to stay, but for 30 grand, I'll take the job and then thank you in 6 months, right?
Hey, Tad, you're welcome to come to all of our meetings. You're welcome to also sit in on our interviews. And
yeah, that's not the point that I'm making. My
if
point is the temperament out there.
If you have some insight on that, but also we want the opportunity to speak to a living and breathing engineer with a PE stamp. We want an opportunity to sit down with someone. Now, we can at that point determine whether or not we think they're going to stay and if they're looking to make a career out of it. But if we never have an opportunity to sit down with them to have those discussions and to deliberate with them, hey, is this something that you can make a career out of here at the county, then we don't get those chances.
But what does that end cost become? You know, it was 15, now we've done it to 30. Next month, we're coming back for 45 to 60 by the end of the year. We had a $100,000 signing bonus just to talk to somebody, right? Where does it end? right? Let's be clear, these meetings and the temperament in this county are not leading to an attractive situation. You can throw all the money at it you want, but we are not providing an environment and a culture that's inviting to work in. So yes, 30 grand, somebody will gladly take that money and please no, right? But we're not. I think there's bigger picture items here. We can use political talking points all we want, but take the temperature and the pulse and be honest with ourselves of what's going on out there, because this is not the solution.
Sure, so we're hiring an admin assistant, hopefully tonight. Tad, we appreciate your vote. We're going to interview 5 candidates for foreman on Monday night. There is an interest in working at the department, Tad. We're going to be interviewing a laborer to work out there, which they haven't talked to a laborer they haven't interviewed a laborer for a long time. And you're going to see some things start to happen on the engineering side. There are people who want to work. There are people who want to work in Shelby County.
So is that an indication that you already have people that want this money, that you already have candidates that are like, hey, with a little bit more, I'm willing to come and take the job? Because that's kind of what
I am confident that this is a strong incentive.
Martha, I have Martha and Martha.
Just question, is the engineer's salary paid 100% out of motor fuel tax, or is that paid by the county?
It's split.
It's split.
So IDOT pays half of it, and the county pays half.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to make a suggestion and see what everybody thinks of. What if we at least take the $30,000 and divide it into 4 quarters? $7,500 a quarter, at least it's not all one.
Well, we already have the retention bonus.
Can that be amended?
And
Just an idea in case anybody wanted to make an amendment, so.
Teresa?
I know that we need an engineer, but I asked Reed the other night if anybody has contacted a headhunter and tried to go that route and pay somebody to try to find somebody for that job. And I don't know if a headhunter's even been talked to about it.
Mr. Chairman?
I have Brent right here.
A headhunter's gonna cost a bunch of money, and we're hoping to get one in before then, but anyway, back to what Tad was saying about people working out there and stuff. We are wanting to give the laborers that drive out there a raise, and it sounds like we're gonna be grievanced about that too. We're not gonna attract anybody for $16 an hour out there to drive a truck and do manual labor when they can go to McDonald's and make 15. I own semis, I know what it costs to get a driver. You're looking at $28 an hour for a driver. If you think you're gonna get somebody to come out there for $16 an hour, nobody's interested in that. That's why there's no interest, and we are starting to get some interest because we have made it known out there that we're trying to raise the rate to $20, $21 an hour. People are getting interested, but now I'm hearing that we're not going to be able to do that because the union ain't going to let it, or going to grievance about it. So until everybody works together to get Shelby County some workers, we're going what we're spending, like Matt said, on the engineer, the engineer will pay for itself for what we're spending out of pocket to other people to do his job. Will more than pay for the retention, for the salary, for everything that we're going for a county engineer. Will be paid. He will pay for himself if we can get one hired. That's all I got.
Just one quick note. You mentioned 30,000 headhunter. I believe it was Greene County hired a headhunter. It cost them $30,000. Why would we want to put $30,000 in the headhunter's pocket when we can potentially put it in a guy that's going to come away from the county? I think that's a bad
Because
idea.
you need an engineer. You need somebody out there that deals in this, that knows how to look for these people.
Understand that. Word of mouth will get out there. Word of mouth will travel farther than that.
I've had Jeremy for a while. Jeremy?
Yeah, the situation at the highway department right now, as Tad alluded to, reminds me of what we had not too long ago in the sheriff's department. There were department head concerns, there were leadership concerns, there were employee concerns. That department has done a complete 180. Has good leadership. It's brought a lot of people on. If there were problems out there, those problems, to my knowledge, have left. And it looks like the highway department is on the upswing. They've got people interested. They have 5 people interested in the foreman position. There's somebody interested in the laborer's position. The department's on the upswing. Okay? I think it's hit bottom and is coming back. I think the toxicity is beginning to go down considerably.
Any other comments?
I do have one more.
Teresa?
I don't think the union would walk away if somebody would contact them and say, we would like to open up a discussion around wages. I've been at that table before, and they won't walk away from it. If there's any other union people in here that know how to negotiate, they probably don't want to open up the whole contract, but I can't believe that they would walk away from extra money for their members. You need to go the proper route to do it, is what you need to do.
So, I think, this question could be asked another time too, to the right people, but if you negotiate one part of the contract, don't you open the entire contract?
No, you don't have to.
Okay, Cody?
When you negotiate a contract, when it comes to pay, and I don't know if Lisa's here, but I have already talked to her, it has to be negotiated because you are changing a contract. Both individuals can agree on opening up a contract, but if one says no, that one's closed, then they don't bargain that. So if we go back to bargain, it will just be for that $2021. Nothing else will change unless we both agree to open up the whole contract.
Simply stated, it'd be an MOU versus a contract.
Right.
And to boot, this was all in committee. All this discussion was in committee. We never actually broached the doors of the full board.
Also, on that note, next month, me and Julie are sitting down with the union for their quarterly contract. So this can also be done then.
The quarterly meeting.
At the quarterly meeting, correct.
Carol?
When they had that Road and Bridge Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, Dave, the union man who was there, said he would negotiate when we were talking about money for the laborers. He said we need to negotiate, and I don't know if anybody did, but he did mention that for anybody who was at that meeting.
Well, like I said, it was intriguing that a discussion at a committee level would draw such an amount of attention because it's not final action, but that's neither here nor there. But just as new board members, as many of you there are, just keep that in mind that, there are channels that need to be followed and procedures. But I would also encourage you to discuss things in committee too. So that's where discussion whatsoever happens. Any other? I have Julie.
I share Tad's concern with the retention. I'm not opposed at all to the additional funds for the bonus.
This additional sign.
No, yeah, but I'm talking, I agree with what he says with the retention. I just feel like $30,000 is a lot of money up front. I want the contract, I want the engineer, I want that money available for the position. I'm not opposed to it at all. I just feel like that is a lot of money up front with no promise of long-term employment.
Do you want to amend it to retention?
Hold on a second. Now, if I remember right, last month's discussion was $15,000 sign-on and then a $15,000 retention.
Yep.
and we all were in favor of it, then we all had to retract that work. Okay, so the way this is worded is an additional 15 to the original 15. So, yes, I would, if somebody would like to make a motion amendment to go back to what we agreed on last month, I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Well, a simple no vote on this reverts it back to $15,000 sign-on.
But then we're not adding,
We're not adding $15,000 to the sign-on.
can we, I mean, can you amend to do 7,500 to the sign-on, 7,500 to the retention?
Or you
No, I follow. Because last month, we agreed to do the $15,000 sign-on. So yes, I agree.
We have a $15,000 sign-on in place. We just put a $15,000 retention in place. A simple no vote on E reverts us back to $15,000 sign-on, $15,000 retention.
I agree, but if, like they're saying, we need that extra money to get an engineer or multiple engineers in the door, maybe we should look at that.
Well, if we
I'm just
need-
wondering, is it better to pay them up front, or is it better to pay them over a course of time?
If we need that, if we're that soft on payroll, then we need to adjust the payroll and stop writing large checks when you walk in the door. Fix payroll. That's my opinion.
Don back here.
I move to amend the $15,000 additional sign-on bonus to $7,500 after 6 months of employment and an additional $7,500 after a year of employment.
I'll second it.
Motion by Don, second by Lori.
And
So what this motion does, I'm sorry, I went to Lori. Annette seconded that. Madam Clerk. So what this does is splits the additional 15,000 proposed. Okay?
So it's still a $30,000
It's
sign-on.
still a combined $30,000 sign-on, but it splits the additional 15,000 is proposed. Tab.
Yeah, so I don't have my minutes in front of me from last month. Remind me what the terms were. Was it upfront 7,500 and 6 months 7,500?
Yeah.
So does this follow those same terms? So it's 15 to 15.
This particular amendment would make it confusing. It would simplify it to simply say, let's make this a retention bonus instead of a sign-on. Let's add it to the retention that exists now, so they get 10, 10, 10, as opposed to that.
That's not even
That's what we tried to do
I don't
last
think you
month.
can do that because you're changing the terminology of what's on the agenda.
Repeat what Don is. Repeat what Don is.
Don's motion was to split the additional 15 into a 7,500 upfront and then 7,500 in 6 months.
No,
6 months and a year.
Oh, 6 months in a year.
So to
Eventually,
keep
they're
up,
going to get 30,000.
they get 15,000 sign-on.
70, no. It's, I got the minutes.
Lori's got the minutes. Lori has the floor.
For May 11th through 23, $15,000 sign-on bonus for the county engineer position to be paid to the engineer in the following manner. Half to be paid at the conclusion of the first week of employment or the first pay period, and the final half of the bonus payment to be paid at the 6-month anniversary from the start day of employment upon recommendation of the Road and Bridge Committee.
And then how much every
And
year
then there was
after that?
so there's a resolution to ask for a $15,000 sign-on bonus to approve the resolution. The sign-on bonus was, give me a minute.
Britt, to clarify, what she's talking about is, sounds like what you were talking about was the retention.
The retention is on this one.
I'm so confused.
Okay.
Yep.
Bobby, so clarify.
Hold on.
I'm trying to, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, let's go with Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hypothetically, that's where we're talking about putting 30,000 out to get an engineer. if we're gonna look at the side of, they're gonna take the money and run, if we hire an engineer, does that reset our clock? If that person leaves in 6 months?
Yes,
Most of them would.
yes.
Yeah.
Our clock's running out. So is it worth the 15 to get our clock reset and roll the dice?
Good point.
That's where I'm at.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so we've been in vacancy for a period of time. Eventually, we're gonna get money pulled from us for not having this position filled.
We're close.
We're close now, they're saying. So what I hear everybody arguing about, $15,000. Well, if we hire somebody, he stays 6 months and he leaves, we just got our clock reset and we gained another year.
And
Sounds pretty elementary.
It does sound elementary, a year for what?
To get another
So-
year. We're
so-
not out of time.
so-
He doesn't understand that
The
he
time-
motor fuel tax.
So from March, or June of last year, March or June, when Stephen resigned, was that March or June?
June.
So from June of last year to current, we've lapsed a year without an engineer. After 18 months,
That's when they start coming in, yeah.
I think 18 months of a vacancy, the state will start withdrawing their MFT funding, which is a big portion of how the highway department operates. If we hire somebody next month, then and say they resign in December. Well, now we're going back to the drawing board looking for another engineer, but now we've got another 18 months that we're not losing funding. Instead of it being December this year, it would be June of 25. And that's what he's talking about.
That's what I'm trying to say is if $15,000 gets us back in the seat, and hopefully the guy wants to be here for a long period of time, or the individual, I don't think the 15 is not enough money to be having a big discussion over, because we're gonna have a ton of money that's gonna go away.
I mean, we've argued over less in here. So,
I've made my point, that's all I've got to say.
You're right.
Martha.
So if I understand it, based on what Lori read, and without Don's amendment, or with Don's amendment, I'm sorry, they get a sign-on bonus after the first week at 22.5. At 6 months, they get 7,500. First year 5, second year 5, third year 5, and the chances are IDOT is going to continue to increase the salary of that position annually, because IDOT's not stupid. They have to realize there are many counties that are hurting for engineers. The difference between private sector in this and all the other states that are growing and taking engineers out of college and they're going somewhere in the state of Illinois. So we can sit here and argue over ticky-tack-tack and this and that, and it's all real money, but breaking it out, 22.5, 75, 5, 5, and 5, the incentive is built in right there. But you can't have all of it be down the road. There's got to be that carrot that dangles that gets them. I agree.
but a month ago, 15 was the carrot.
Done.
And Green County took 30,000 to get it done.
I thought was not, with what Lori said, and not disputing what was in the minutes, I'm saying this additional 15,000 that they're wanting to add on, half of that gets paid 6 months from the time of employment, and the other 7,500 gets paid a year after employment, regardless of what we voted on last month.
Right.
That's what I'm saying we do with the additional 15 that the Highway Department Road and Bridge Committee is asking us to put out. I'm not disputing at all that we don't need to put the 30,000 or the additional $15,000 as a sign-on bonus, but I think I'm saying we need to put a few terms to that sign-on.
Lori. I'll come back to you, Matt.
Just to avoid what happened last month, would it be appropriate, because it says and this is not the minutes, this is the agenda, so the minutes would have been whatever was entered tonight. I'm guessing I haven't verified that to know if I can pull it up later. But if it says approve 15,000 sign-on bonus to be paid, half to be paid at the conclusion of the first week and half to be paid at 6 months. If you're doubling the 15, it meant now 30, it would still be half the first week, half in 6 months?
But
Is
we
that
can
what we're
amend
saying?
it. We can amend it.
So that the starting, I'm just wanting to make sure that the motion fits the agenda item and that I'm on the same page.
Bobby, I have a procedural question. Hold your thought for a second, Lori. I don't mean to interrupt you, because I think this is being way too complicated. Why can't we procedurally just change the sign-on bonus to retention bonus? It has no terms on it. It allows us to put it inside the employment contract, the retention of this 15, as opposed to making it a sign-on. I hear what people are saying. It probably should have been retention and not sign-on. So we change the word from sign-on to retention, the 15,000's there, it's done. And then we put it in the employment contract.
Because we advertise sign-on, we can't change it to retention.
That's why I'm asking you.
That's why.
We can't change the wording, but we can change the terms.
Of a sign-on.
We can amend the terms.
There's amendment terms as long as the total doesn't
So
change.
whatever we do, as long as we follow the agenda, the listed thing, and call it the sign-on, we can amend the terms, which is what Don did.
Correct.
Let's vote. Or we can call a vote, and if it's a no, then the committee can deal with it and bring it back next month.
That's fine too.
So the vote is on the amendment, Don's amendment, to have the additional 15 split and paid at 6 months and a year.
So just to clarify, based on what Lori said, that makes,
It has nothing to do with that. This
I'm
is-
talking about what gets added to the original 15.
This,
And how
that's
the
this money.
original,
Hold on, hold on.
Please don't interrupt me,
What
Donna.
she's saying though is when it's all piled up,
yes. What's day one or week one?
day 1, 6 months, a year, and
So it goes
2, 3.
7,500 week one, 15,000 6 months, 70, no, but the 1 year is going to be 7,500 plus 5,000. So 12,500 at the first year, and then 5 year 2, year 3, correct? Okay, I just wanted clarification. Thanks, Don.
okay. Any other discussion? Vote's been called.
Do we have how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we've lost because of not having an engineer, Matt, and then just call this vote, let's get it on?
All right.
Can I just hear what the motion is?
A lot.
The motion is to take the additional 15 that's on the agenda and create terms that would split the payment to be $7,500 at 6 months and $7,500 at a year, which would then create accumulation that Martha has referenced within the here prior. So
That accumulation would be
It's-
7,500 at the end of the first week. Or
Can we call the vote, please?
15,000 at 6 months, 12,500 at the first year, 5,000 at year 2, 5,000 at year 3, for clarification.
Not changing the item, but
Nope.
clarifying,
Yep.
adding terms.
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bang,
I'm confused, but yes.
Cody Brands,
No.
Tim Brown,
No.
Carol Cole,
No.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Laura Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Sheff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 16 ayes, 4 nays, Brands, Brown, Cole, and Ross.
Okay, I had an original motion on the floor. I do believe it was Matt and Jeremy. Matt made the original motion, Jeremy seconded the original motion. All in favor of the original as amended? We have to vote on the original. We gotta go backwards.
No.
Isn't that a roll call? It's roll call.
As amended.
As amended. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brand.
No.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
No.
Mitchell Shutt.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 17 ayes, 3 nays, Brands, Cole, and Ross.
Item F is employment of Wendy Gregory for the administrative assistant position at the highway department and her employment agreement. Entertain a motion. Jeremy makes a motion, Julie seconds. Discussion on the hiring and her agreement. Any discussion? Tab.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through a few of these items, if that's all right. Starting with number 1B, oversee as well as supervise, employ, and terminate, and discipline employees. According to the contract, of the terms, employee would also be subject to a 60-day probationary period. So while on probation, the new employee would have all these authorities. That's a question.
Matt, you
Sure, I can address it. Yeah, the answer is yes.
So a probationary employee has the right to terminate tenured employees.
and hire. It's qualified by both directions.
So-
One's positive, one's not.
The other item that we're going to get to is G. Within that authority of, within the certification from a full county board within the state of Illinois, certifies an individual to act in the absence of an engineer as the acting engineer. With that comes authority. That's why there's an entire resolution by which we all agree to vest whoever that individual is with that authority. If you wish to convey to them less authority, Tad, you're welcome to make that motion.
I'm just asking questions, right? I mean, that's what we're here for, is for this discussion. Was, as far as the committee, was there a previous relationship or knowledge of the candidate by any of the committee members?
Not by me.
I personally know her, go to church with her.
Okay.
Brett was not there, and
But I started to say, I didn't even know I never, trust me, if I knew she was looking for the job, I'd told her about it, but I didn't tell her
But
about it.
what's-
I was
what's the-
surprised when I seen her resume.
What's the point of that question, Tad? I'm just curious.
Conflicts of interest.
Okay, like what?
Well, personal relationships, family, would be a conflict of interest, is what I'm asking.
Oh, she's not a family.
Yeah, that's the basis of the question.
Yeah, that particular nepotism.
Right. So I just want, just ask it for the record, that's all. So the pay scale. Can I ask where the pay scale was derived from?
Negotiating?
And we used another county as a precedent. Is there another precedent in the state?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of precedents for the admin assistant.
Sure, I'm asking for those, I guess, right? Because the pay far exceeds a lot of the averages within the county for similar roles. Also with staff that have a lot more experience. So it's a question on how the salary was set with an automatic increase at the first part of the year, guaranteed increases going forward without what appears to be any performance reviews.
Well, I would say, Tad, if you compare apples to apples as opposed to apples to oranges, which is what you're doing. So when you compare this position to anything within the county, you might have your conclusion. But if you compare this position with other counties similarly situated with this classification,
sure, so
it's right on the mark. In fact, it's low.
But also the ones that are similar within the county have 31 and 25 years collective experience. So apples to apples is pretty close, right? When we're at parity with those employees' wages, we're there. But the experience, and then I don't see a performance standards. The performance review, is there an annual review process to determine? I mean, we just heard from probation that they have annual reviews for performance. So what's the standard for performance?
Unfortunately, I think the county does a poor job of that, doing annual reviews, as far as I can tell. In fact, I would say that the majority of non-union employees don't even have an employment agreement like this is. I think that's true across most departments. So this was quite a step in a positive direction. So she could understand the position, which is being asked to do, and the parameters of it, the benefits, all that spelled out for her was a big step in the right direction. I recommend that all departments do this, but it's unfair to compare this position, what this position is asking for, to other positions within the courthouse.
Well, it's what you just asked me to do.
No, I did not. I asked you to compare it to other counties with a similarly situated administrative assistant within a county engineer office.
I asked you for those examples, I didn't hear them.
Yeah, I did tell you that this one is right on the marker, if not a little bit low.
Which counties?
I'll be glad to provide that.
Thank you.
And had you asked me beforehand some of these questions, I would have provided you all these questions.
Sure.
So, but to back up, the administrative part of it sets it aside from, it would basically be giving the individual the responsibilities of the department head in the terms of the vacancy, which we are in currently. I had Cody and Martha back here. I had Cody first, I think.
Hey, Matt, does the hiring and stuff, does that end when a engineer is hired? Or does that continue on afterwards?
I would let the engineer decide that, but I would say in consultation with us, some of those things are going to change. Consultation with the committee, the engineer, right? Who's going to have a big say in that? Some of that's going to be subject to change, for sure.
Yeah, and to add to that, is once, this is such a unique situation because the committee has done the legwork of locating and finding and interviewing and going through the process that normally the engineer themselves would do, normally the department head would do. In the absence of, here we are. Now we've got seats to fill and we have jobs to do, and we're in quite, and any stretch of imagination, we're in a very unique position. And by and large, a lot of these responsibilities that have been talked about would be, I would assume, like Matt said, those would be discussed at a later time with an actual engineer, but I would think that those would be relieved, she would be relieved of some of those duties that are listed. But that would be the engineer's decision.
Sure.
Mark?
I was going to say, I would assume, as you said, Bobby, that the engineer will be the one responsible for annual reviews, semi-annual reviews, whatever they determine they want to set up in their office. Their department.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if you read in A, it says the county engineer, when there's one established under his direction, as the administrative assistant, participate in any or all of the duties described herein. So that's bullet point A right ahead of it. When you point out B, right? You asked if they would be able to hire and fire.
while on probation, was my question.
Okay. And it says, and in with consultation of the Road and Bridge Committee. So it's not a single act by a single person.
Let's vote. Well, I had Teresa back here, and I have Martha too.
Okay, if you look at what Heather Wade just handed out to us on vacation, and you look at the vacation that's being given this brand new employee, they don't match up, and I wondered why there's so
Well,
much difference.
to put a quick answer to that's, Heather's department, and then we've got Road and Bridge Committee, which I'm sure Matt and Heather did not discuss what they were going to do with their employees individually. I can speculate on pretty.
They're worlds apart though, because in Heather's office, you have to be there a whole year to get 5 days. And when this person starts on the 15th of June, she's going to get 5 days. And then the first of the year, she's going to get 5 more days. So she'll have been there 6 months, and she's going to get 10 days of vacation.
Isn't someone already about to get 6 weeks?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I will just say this, if you want talented, talent, if you want talent to come into the county, you have to negotiate with talent, and you have to do the right things to get the talent in the county to help you have a good, solid highway department that's ready for an engineer, that paves the way for a good engineer. Yeah, you can debate about union contracts, and frankly, the union didn't do a very good job negotiating for their laborers the other day. So I wouldn't have them negotiating for me either. In fact, is there an area I could grieve against them for denying the laborers something we were going to do? So in some cases, some people can negotiate for themselves. And when you run into talent, they can negotiate for themselves. And that is the basis of this contract.
Hold on, Julie. Martha, do you have anything? Julie.
Honestly, I don't understand why anybody works like this. In the private sector, people accumulate hours based on the amount of days they work almost from the start of day one of employment. So really, I mean, it's up to the department head to, I guess, negotiate that, but this working a year, getting X amount of days, in the private sector, that never happens.
And we're asking people to leave. We are competing against the private sector. When we're asking them to leave a job they may have worked for 20 years and they were getting 3 weeks of vacation, you're going to ask them to make, you're going to convince a talented person to come in and work in a county and give them 0 days on day one. I don't think so.
No, I would never work in 5 days.
I would make a brief comment to that. I think it's prudent for government to be competitive. I'm sorry, not competitive, but have some sort of, pushing the envelope incentive. But not excessive. Not excessively competitive where you're pushing your constituents out. Yeah. Does that make sense? Teresa.
I have 2 more things. On here, on 4, under C, a maximum of 20 unused vacation days may be carried over each calendar year. All other vacation time unused at the end of the calendar year shall be forfeited. I understand what this is saying, but I do know that, bring it up, in the union contract, they can only carry forward so much for 6 months. Is everybody aware that some of the stuff's in here because it's different? And when it gets to the time that somebody's going to turn in their time for pay and stuff, some of this might be questioned because it is different.
So on all these questions that are being raised, these have been negotiated in committee, correct?
Yes.
So the person that's being presented has agreed to the terms, and that's why we're being presented with the person and the terms, because this has been negotiated. So in reference to being concerned of the potential employee, that employee has already self-negotiated the terms, so they are fully aware of what they're walking into. And if it sounds like what you're saying is that the terms that they've agreed to are actually a little more stringent than what is contracted with or negotiated.
Can I be quite blunt about what I'm trying to say?
Please, please.
The treasurer has questioned some of this stuff about carrying forward time, when people have carried forward time, and they can only carry forward up to 6 months. That's what I'm saying. This person can carry 20 days, and I don't care, but it's different than the other people. So could there be a possible problem down the road of somebody questioning somebody's time, is what I'm saying.
It's in writing, that's a good part of it.
It's an employment contract, it's an employment contract.
It's in black.
That's what you follow, is the
Okay,
employment
I got
contract.
one more. I got one more, number 8. Matt, can you explain that one to me?
You'll have to read it to me, I don't have it in front
The
of me.
employee shall be reimbursed by the county for actual traveling and other expenses incurred in the discharge of her duties of her office, including but not limited to costs of meals, lodging, transportation, registration fees for seminars, classes, conferences related to the county highway. Is that just expenses to go to meetings? That's not on a daily basis to drive?
No, that's, so some of that language comes from like the engineer's contract. And that's like when you send them to do a training that's specifically designed.
But that's not on a daily basis to
No,
go back and forth to work? Because when I read this, I thought, surely that's not.
No, that's special training.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
So just for clarification, whenever, she won't hire the fire by herself, right? She'll bring it to me.
Yeah, I think Tad kind of cherry picked the language, he didn't read it all. But when you read it all, it says in consultation with the R&D committee, right Tad?
Well, it wasn't the part of my point, is what I said.
No, his reference was to during the probationary period. Go ahead.
So when you read it all, it says in consultation with the committee, you know, these things are conveyed to this person.
Another question, I'm just curious. Do other supervisors, you hire men right off the street, I mean, do they have the authority to hire and fire people like, you know, before the probationary period?
My recommendation is going to be don't do any of that.
Well, to answer your question, yes, if we hired a highway engineer and he fired everybody, you know, that's his can of worms that they want to open up, you know. But they are the department head that would be appointed by the board, so it's no different than any of the elected department heads in here. If they came into their office and fired everybody day one, that's their can of worms they want to open up. I'm not going to go into the details of the repercussions of it, but because we have labor agreements, I'm just saying they have the ability. Most supervisors do.
But that's a department head. This is not a department head.
But with her job description, she is would be the acting engineer. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
In the absence of one manager.
In the absence of an engineer, so we're wrapping up.
Does this have to be consent from IDOT? Does IDOT have to approve?
That's the last item on our thing.
Yeah.
And who's going to be doing the secretary of bookkeeping?
As soon as the position is open.
So I want to address something that can coexist together. A probationary time can coexist with all those powers conveyed today. Because a probationary period gives us the legal ability to remove anybody for cause or no cause. It gives accountability and oversight through the committee to that position, which is what the taxpayers expect us to do, is to provide accountability and oversight. If you don't have a probationary period, it can be a little bit more difficult. So you have a probationary period, no questions asked, somebody can be removed during that time. Simple. And I think it's justified in being in there.
It's also important to remember anybody can be hired by that person anytime too, with the consent of the road and bridge. So rather than the road and bridge committee doing the hiring, this individual would do the hiring. We've concentrated so much on the negative, we're forgetting about the positive here. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we take the vote?
What are the actual hours of employment?
Hours of employment.
You have a contract, don't you?
Yeah, it has no hours of employment. It talks about hours worked. There is no 7:30 to 4:30, 8 to 4 timeline in here.
No, that's not spelled out on there. It just has a minimum of 35 and a maximum of 40.
So it's a come and go as long as the 35 hours are met, with no specified hours?
So, Tad, a lot of these things, you know, I'm not sure why you're getting this far into the weeds. We have a huge agenda.
Because I've read other contracts with other employees that were at there that had 7:30 to 4:30 specified time.
But I will tell you that when there's a head of agency there, and there will be a head of agency there, that'll be worked out between this person and that head of agency.
But that's not happening right now. You're asking me to prove something in absence of a head of agency. And so when we're ticky about times, arrivals and departures, I think it's fair to have when those office hours are supposed to be.
Is there established office hours on the door?
So, 7 is the established time to start. 7 to 3:30 are the established hours.
So we do have hours of employment, we just didn't put it in the contract.
And if the office is not being manned appropriately, and we get complaints about it, then we have grounds for, well, not dismissal, but somebody help me here. Disciplinary action.
So, but you're making my point for me, is we don't have what that is in here, so therefore it is very loose without prescribed hours. We don't have discipline. When you just said, fill 35 hours a week.
Tim Brown has called the vote, so we'll take the vote. This is for the employment of Wendy Gregory and the employment agreement. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Noes, raise your hand, please. We have Teresa, Tim Morse, Tad, and Carol. Motion carries. Item G is the DLR 02130 IDOT resolution requesting consent to the appointment of acting county highway engineer and approval of the appointment of Wendy Gregory as acting county engineer. Sonny makes the motion. Can I get a second? Dave seconds. Any discussion? We've kind of gone through a lot of this. Hearing none.
I do have a question.
Teresa.
Who's going to train her? When she walks in the door the first day, any of it, who's going to train her?
That's a good question. So, the
It was
person that,
discussed with her in her interview to expect,
Yeah.
try to anticipate that, and she did show great self-motivation, and that was one of the key things she displayed in her
But I'm
interview.
talking about, Julie, even the stuff that she has to sign for acting county engineer, who's going to train her to do this stuff?
I mean, that's a concern with anybody that would
Who trained
walk
Dale
in.
Weatherall when he took the position?
Stacy was there for one thing.
There's employees out there that have significant years of experience
For now.
that can assist.
Okay, I'm fine.
there's a transfer of knowledge document sitting on the desk.
Today, I promise you.
It's a red binder. It's a transfer of knowledge document. She'll get a chance to read it. And she has procedures in there for a lot of the things that initially need done. All of this stuff, though, is progressively responsible learning.
And there's always IDOT to fall back on too as well.
Exactly.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Teresa? No. Tim Morse, no. Tad, no. Carol, no. Motion carries. Is the sheriff here this evening?
I believe he's a trainee.
He's a trainee. Do we have anybody that would speak to the, so the item 9 is,
Why did we pass up 4 and 5?
we'll get back to it. Julie, what's concerned?
No concern. We can just cover what the sheriff was going to do for we talked about it in public safety.
Okay, so item 9 is discussion and vote to approve the resolution to declare the speed trailer as surplus and accept bids to dispose of said speed trailer. Don. Don makes a motion.
I'll second.
Julie seconds. Any discussion?
Basically, the sheriff said, we have two, they don't hardly use any of them, and he just felt like now we could probably get a reasonable amount of return on the initial investment that we spent on this speed trailer, and he feels it's the time, now's the time to move it on.
The highway department already has one, so they didn't need it.
Yeah, somebody don't use it, so.
Any other discussion?
Always.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 10 and 11 have been respectfully pulled from the agenda. We'll move on to 12, discussion and vote. Discussion and vote to allow Public Safety Chair Don Tate to work with the state's attorney to obtain an architect to assist with bid and repair and replace windows in the courthouse as outlined in 50 ILCS upon the recommendation of the Public Safety Committee. Brent makes the motion, seconded by Jeremy. Discussion. Don.
I brought this up because if we're going to get anything done with this window project in this courthouse, it's my opinion that we need to have an architect to say exactly what needs to be done, somebody to write the bid specs on getting it done, somebody to oversee the project and make sure it's done properly, which that falls to an architect. And this IL spec number describes how you go about getting an architect.
Any other discussion? Lori?
Because if we're to have meetings, this does not, the conversation did not implicate in the committee that the state's attorney is going to be hiring or picking someone just to be available as counsel for how we need to follow that 50 ILCS 510, because an architect does fall into a specific category of its local governmental professional services. So there are, we had to sort that out as far as, do we have to bid this professional or do we have to bid that? Architects fit into a specific category under that statute.
And that's my mistake, because I worded this agenda item, so it wasn't, the state's attorney is only there to help Don consult with him to make sure he is within guidelines of that statute. It's not, he has nothing to do with the architect itself.
Just to clarify that nothing is being given to the state's attorney.
Right, so that's my mistake in the wording.
Well, just clarification of who's doing what. Don?
And I'm not going to hire an architect. I'm just want the state's attorney to help me draft whatever needs to be done to put out for, that the county's looking for an architect to do this project. And we as a public safety committee will review any applicants that we get.
Back here.
Was that not done when the roof and?
What I've seen of this, the architect that did the roof, there was a multiple phases to do this, but they were primarily talking about replacing the windows. And if we are going to use the $250,000 grant that we have available from the state of Illinois, they have to be restored as opposed to replacing them. That's.
Martha.
So I understand the grant money and the 250 to restore, but could we potentially spend more, even with the grant money, to restore windows that are not custom, standard, whatever you want to call it, are we also going to look at what it would cost to replace these with energy efficient, more common day material type windows? Because even with, just because we have the grant money doesn't mean it makes good fiscal sense to take on a project if we ultimately spend more out of pocket than over and above that grant.
Yeah, when this discussion started, it was prior to ARPA. And I think that brings up a good point. If we would replace them all using ARPA funds, and this is back to what an architect would look at is what is a window going to take to replace it, to revert whatever. I'm assuming this is what the discussion is going to be.
My understanding from talking to Del Rutherall, who was part of this committee on this courthouse, was back when the architect talked about this and doing replacement windows at that point in time. The bids or the estimates on that far exceeded the 250 and the $1.25 million that we already have set aside from ARPA. That's
So they were talking about more than
$1.5 million to replace all the windows with energy efficient windows. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
And again, if we, whatever.
I received a substantial stack of documents from the clerk, from Utz and Associates. When the roof was engineered, that was not all that was engineered. The entire building, from top to bottom, including doors, including what people refer to as stucco mitigation at the base, that has all been engineered in a document that the county paid in the neighborhood of $30,000 for. That was brought to the county board, and the county board refused portions of it per the amount of money they had at the time. They refused the windows, they refused the doors, they refused the stucco, and they simply did the roof. Due to time constraints on my end, I've had a difficult time sitting down and meeting with Utz and Associates. I've been trying to do that for some time. I know we have discussed in Public Safety Committee meeting. We received one bid quote from an architect firm, and it's appearing that that number's $80,000 plus dollars, just to tell us what we need to bid. It is my opinion, from conversations that I've had with Judge Harlow, that the necessary information is contained in the documents that we paid for from Utz and Associates. My intellect does not allow me to interpret them to know for certain that that's what it is. Someone needs to sit down with Utz and Associates and say, explain this on my level or your level. Because the judge is very convinced that we've already paid for that and we shouldn't do it again. And I agree, if we have, then we shouldn't pay for it again. I'm not opposed to either direction, replacement. I believe that the bid was for replacement. I believe the bid spec was for replacement, but that would contain in there the information we should need to request for bid. That's where the county is at, the request for bid place. And there's a communication issue with whether or not we contain the skill set necessary to properly write a request for bid. I believe that that's already been done. Others believe it has, others believe it hasn't. So if we do this, just know we're going to spend another 80 grand on something that is believed to have already be in existence.
So should we table this till Utz can be talked to?
I make a motion to table this agenda item until we can
Verify what
verify what Hudson did and not vote to spend more money until.
Motion by Martha to table, seconded by Mark. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
you say
No, Cody says no. Moving on, item 13 is discussion and vote to continue farming the county farm and property unless otherwise directed upon recommendation of the farm committee. So that is the recommendation of the farm committee is to continue farming with the property unless otherwise directed. Should I make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Brent makes a motion. I need a second. Second by Tim Brown. Yeah, Tim Brown. Discussion on this. This is a pretty, go ahead, man. I was just gonna say, it's just a pretty cut and dry thing. We've had, questions of whether, what direction we're going with this. And so I thought the committee needed to put forth some sort of direction and effort. Mark?
I would like to table this because I've actually asked for legal opinion.
I'll second that.
Motion to table, seconded by Sonny. All in favor of the motion, or all in favor of tabling, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Noes, raise your hand. Put your hand down, ayes, raise your hand. Ayes.
Okay. 7. Oh, it's, yeah, I got an 8, okay.
Motion fails to table. Go back to the discussion of the original vote. Martha?
Can you explain what unless otherwise directed means?
Well, we've got concerns of the burial sites that was discussed in the farm committee, which would lend the property to be a 240-acre cemetery currently.
So do we have a legal opinion from our state's attorney as to whether or not moving forward with farming is appropriate?
Legal opinion, I would believe it was in the
Because I thought the
March.
last legal opinion was that we should not.
The March update, I believe. It outlined the Cemeteries Act and the Burial Site Act and all that.
And have we heard anything to the contrary of that? Because I thought the gist of that one was that we should not farm it due to those acts.
Right.
But I don't think we got a written legal opinion, did we? Did it, no, it came in that update.
It was in the March update.
Bobby,
Jeremy?
is this just concerning harvest of the wheat crop and the planting and the harvest of the wheat stubble beans for this year? Is that what this is concerning? Is it limited to that?
As of currently, the harvest would not be impeding, the planting would be impeding.
Okay, so we're talking about the planting of the beans that this covers?
Yes.
And that's it?
Well, it'd be continuing, it'd be from continuing on. From the point of planting these double crops to until we quit or somebody else takes over. Sonny's got a comment.
Has the farm committee answered the constitutional question of public purpose besides making money?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Has there been any clarification on if there's any outstanding graves in the cemetery, out of the boundaries of the cemetery? Is there any clarification on that?
Carol, you have anything on that?
So we don't know if there's bodies outside the cemetery or not.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know the number that you're at, how many bodies may be outside the cemetery boundary.
How many underneath my house, right? I mean, how many are buried along the roads that we use in the county highway department for? So
I think the key word is knowing.
But what we've had is an official that actually stated that there was multiple bodies that may be outside of the cemetery. That
think
hasn't been
multiple,
confirmed.
multiple was not the word used.
One or more doesn't matter.
Bodies everywhere.
I have a question. Before the legal opinion, it is the recommendation of the farm committee to farm this. We're tabling, it was, the table discussion was based on waiting on a legal opinion, right?
Yes, I asked
So
for
the
one.
farm committee, okay, I got it. That was just my own.
There was a statement, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, the statement.
There was a statement made, I will read word for word. Since it was reported by a public official in a public meeting by a reputable historian of the property that there could be people buried outside the cemetery. Hedgerows, etc. Hedgerows could have been, back in that day, could have been anywhere. Under a lot of, we've seen things in the past where, oh, bury them under the maple tree. The maple tree may be gone. But we need to acquire as to exactly where every person is at so that we don't run into a problem later.
I will say one thing. The last person who died out there recorded was in 1942. They're buried at the cemetery. So this farm has been farmed since 1942. Nothing has turned up. So I don't know why you think now that growing beans, what, 2 inches, is going to produce bones. They farmed, I'm not a farmer, but it's been farmed and nothing has been produced. So why?
I asked, how do you know that?
I don't know. Wouldn't they, well, you proved to me that there have been some there too. I don't know.
We don't know. and
Has
that's
any
the problem.
farmer ever said there's been bones produced out there? I don't think so.
If I remember correctly, I might not, Mr. Hamlin discussed a statute that didn't have to do with the digging up of bones or the exposing of bones. It was the desecration of the grave site. And I believe the example that was given was if somebody takes their truck and runs over through a cemetery and leaves ruts, did they unearth any bones or anything? A coffin? No, but it's a desecration of a grave site.
Of a known grave site. No. It's not known.
No. But it's been said that bodies could be buried out there outside of.
Doesn't make it known.
No, it makes it unknown, which makes the whole thing unknown.
Right, so, but it's not known.
But it's been reported in a meeting.
But the statute says known, right? No.
Cody?
When I read this, I read it as it was recommended to be farmed by the farm committee. Did they recommend to continue farming or no?
The recommendation of the farm committee is to continue farming unless otherwise directed.
I mean, we need to call a vote.
And Mark called the table it because he's asked for a legal opinion in writing that he doesn't.
But if the committee already did their due diligence and already said it, then we just need to vote. If they don't want to, then they vote no.
Mr. Chairman.
I've got hands over.
Yeah,
Chairman.
go- Okay. I have a couple of questions. Last year, the year before, the then state's attorney asked the State Department of Revenue for a tax exemption. And that tax exemption was denied. And I believe the wording used was that the property was not being used for a tax exempt purpose. To our knowledge, has that changed? Are we still using it for a non-tax exempt purpose?
No, just the other day I signed all the exemption paperwork and that was not in the stack of paperwork.
So we are using it for a non-tax exempt purpose?
Correct.
Which means we're going to have to pay property tax on it.
Which means that is whether it's on the tax rolls.
So have we solved, since we're going to be paying our own property tax, have we solved the double taxation and taxation without representation issue yet?
No.
So if we have if we're waiting on a legal opinion and we have multiple tax issues staring at us, I think we need to safeguard taxpayer money on that.
Well, we're already in violation of the rules if that's the case, because we've approved spending money on it and we're farming it, right? We're already violating it. If that stands to be true, then we're all culpable, right? Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already culpable.
Too long, stuff to wrong.
Yeah,
But you approved it to
if
be
we're
right.
already doing it wrong, I don't think we should continue.
Has it been farmed now? Is there a crop on it?
Yeah, it's wheat. I was voted on by the last group.
Go ahead.
Correct.
So if we're farming this thing,
Hold on, I've got Clay back here.
so if we're farming this thing, we've been farming for many years, decades, and why don't we just go ahead and farm it? If somebody wants to go out there and witch for bodies or use ground penetrating radar to try to find these things, so be it. But why don't we just use it like we've been using it? We've been talking about, well, do it legally, but this just get done with the subject.
Sonny.
We are currently not doing it the way that we have done it for decades, as a point of clarification. The way it was done for decades is not how it's been done now, because that was proven to have been illegal for decades.
But we have been farming.
We have farmed it, the previous board, this board hasn't farmed it, the previous board farmed it.
We picked up, this board has picked up what the last board started. In 22, it was farmed by donation. And in 23 now, fall of 22 going into 23, the board footed the bill for the inputs and crop. So we were in a custom farm operation. Prior to that, it was leased, rented. So you could say we were farming it, but we weren't. It was just let out to a farmer for them to farm.
Right.
So there's a difference there. Mark, I'll get to you later. Mark.
I would like to point out, according to the hearings that are in Springfield from the House and the Senate vote, that it was mentioned that even though the wording was changed to 5 years, that it could be leased, crop shared, or custom farmed. The one item that the senators made very aware to everybody was this does not change the public purpose. Everyone needs to be made aware of that. It has to conform to public purpose. We are a greedy county because we want to make all the money we can make off of it. If we want to put it into a park or something that is a benefit to the members of this county, not just to our pockets, then it can meet a public purpose. It can go to school, it can go to 4-H. There are a lot of uses, and there are a lot of counties that are doing that. And that is how they're getting by with the public purpose. We are not doing any of that. The word is a public purpose. You cannot just put it in your own coffers because that makes the most money for us.
Don.
I thought when we agreed last year to custom farm the farm, that it was stated that all monies over and above cost would go towards repair and maintenance of the courthouse, which I would think is public purpose.
I don't believe that was ever agreed on.
Okay.
No.
It was talked about, but never agreed on. Because it would make a lot of sense for us to earmark the funds.
Well, many of those farming conversations were held hingent upon the Illinois Department of Revenue not charging us tax on the land, but they did that, and that never got discussed, and the county just paid the bill. So lots of stuff was talked about.
Mark?
To address what Dante mentioned, that was a question that I actually asked our treasurer. whether we could put it in a separate fund, and we cannot. It has to go to the 029. We cannot earmark it. She did some checking.
You're saying the income has to go to 029?
Yes, sir.
But the board could decide where it could go,
Well,
where it could be spent. Do you want me to read the amendment from the House bill or not?
Well, we're not talking about the House bill, and
Mark did, Mark mentioned the House bill.
Senate bill. And what if you want to, if any, you can actually look it up, the actual video of the questions that were asked by the Senate members in response to how they changed the amendment and the qualifications with which it must still acquire to.
And then,
Mark?
Yes,
Can the farm committee please pursue and discuss with the other counties the process and how to reallocate those, maybe not reallocate those funds, but use that bucket for public purpose? How do they do it? If they can do it, why can't we figure out how to do that? And continue using the farm as it is until further notified, like the line item says.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'll defer to Dave. We talked about that quite a bit. You and Mitch have come to the committee because it has to be not just farming. It has to be something that the public can walk on the property at any time and have an activity, something that is supported. It's not about just returning dollars to the county.
How are those other counties doing it?
Okay, the first example was Millennial Park in Chicago. It's Millennial Park Farm. It's downtown Chicago. It's between the skyscrapers and the...
I know where Millennial Park is.
I wouldn't call it a farm. There's no farm going on. They rent out concession stand, and there's various activities that go on in that park.
So we could put a walk around the farm and call it a park.
But you would have to set up a park district.
You have to set up something. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm disagreeing with what he had said. It then has to become kind of its own entity. We do not, the Shelbyville Park is the city's, then it would be a county park, which would create a whole other department that would not sustain.
I think Cody had several different examples that we've actually mentioned too. Not that any one in particular, but
Yeah, it would just be like a park district where you would set it up, and let's just say we farmed 190 acres, and the other side, the other part could be like grassland, where you could have people come in the fall and the spring and then hunt that land, or you not farm it and make a 4x4 park where people can bring dirt bikes or whatever.
Right.
But that is a public purpose.
Yeah.
So the only way to farm it would be to set up a park district. Then the other part is who's in charge of that park district. So then that may be
Why can't the committee just be?
well, apparently it was brought up several years ago, or a couple of years ago, and it was shut down.
Dave, when you come to the committee, and Mitch, you guys were working on, was it FFA?
FFA and or working with some of the, like Finley has a very active ag program where they were working with the lake, with some of their fields, doing dove plots, doing different things where the students actually got to go and participate in part of programs during school hours. So, do what?
Those students were also fun.
I'm saying that's what's happening.
well, is it ready for public comment now?
Yeah.
So why you running the meeting?
Dave, standpoint. Up here, Dave, up here. No, we're discussions here.
I was brought up to listen to everybody, and I'm sorry for. I'll be done.
Yeah, Mitch?
Yeah, what Dave and I was trying to put together, that whole lawyer to create a pilot program for Shelby County to do the pilot program to experiment, see if this thing was going to work. But you got to remember, the funds from those acres that is farmed can't be put in the coffers of the county. It has to go back to that school. And we was wanting to do Shelby County schools, to maybe do a 2-year term with this school, do a 2-year term with that school, and so forth. Whoever wanted to participate. Now, I don't know if that means both prongs of public purpose. I think it does, as long as you don't put the money into the county.
Teresa?
Are we trying to decide whether we can harvest the wheat and plant the beans? Is that what we're trying to do right now? Because if the law goes into effect, things are going to change anyway. So what are we trying to decide?
So this discussion has been brought up for taxes and public purpose. And it means that there's a tax bill on the books. It means that the Department of Revenue has not exempted it from taxes. Therefore, there is no public purpose to exempt it from taxes.
So does the farm committee have in the budget for this year to pay the taxes on the farm?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that logic and reasoning, we can just put whatever we want in the budget, buy us all new suits and ties and clothes, and as long as it's in whatever budget, then we can do it. Doesn't, laws be damned, we can do it because it's in the budget.
No, because it doesn't fit the purview of the office holders.
Exactly. That's the point. It doesn't meet a public purpose. The gentleman from the farm committee attempted to table this nonsense until he got a legal opinion that we could all agree or disagree to, but the majority wanted to have this conversation, so we'll have it. But until it meets a public purpose, it's illegal. The Senate and the House just passed that, and they just declared that.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I have a problem with paying those taxes, Mr. Chairman. The money that's going to be used to pay those taxes comes from everywhere in the county, comes from all over the county. If I understand correctly, when revenue comes into the county, it has to be distributed to the pertinent taxing districts in which the property lies. Am I correct so far?
Mm-hmm.
So you got people from 24 different townships who are putting money into the county. The county pays its taxes on that farm that's in Rose Township. I think it's 100% Rose Township.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So then there's money from 24 different townships, taxpayers going to Rose Township. There's also a whole lot of school districts in Shelby County. People from every other school district in the county are seeing their tax money go to Shelbyville School District. I've got constituents in Richland Township and Shelbyville Township and Windsor Township that shouldn't be paying into Rose Township unless they own property there. And I've got constituents in Stu Straw School District and Windsor School District who shouldn't be paying into Shelbyville School District. They should be paying into the one that they're in unless they own property there. And I don't have a single constituent. What's that?
Nothing. I'm just saying that what's been discussed seems a little bit inaccurate based on what I just read. So
I don't have a single constituent who can vote for Rose Township Board where that money's going to be spent in that township. So my constituents are paying money into multiple places where they don't live, don't own property, can't vote, don't have any representation. I have a serious problem with my constituents' money going somewhere where they don't live, don't own property, can't vote. And that's just the taxation without representation part. The double taxation part that I mentioned earlier is when you pay your tax money in, the county takes it and distributes it to the different taxing districts, That's one hit of tax money for that tax district. But when the county takes its own money, taxpayer money, to pay its own property taxes, that's an expense on one side and a revenue on the other, I believe. And when it takes that in, even though it came out of one pocket and goes in the other, that revenue gets redistributed to the pertinent taxing districts because that property sits there. And so any property, any taxing district in which that property sits gets a second dose of tax money. That's a double taxation. We have a double taxation and a taxation without representation issue here. And there's a third tax issue. I don't think we've gotten an answer yet to the income tax question. If we have, I wasn't notified. Have we gotten an answer to that?
No.
Okay, so the county, because it's using the farm for a non-tax exempt purpose, has to pay property taxes. It would stand to reason, and I'd like to get a legal opinion, but it would stand to reason that if the income from a non-tax exempt process might also be non-tax exempt. So does the county have to pay an income tax on the income from the farm? I don't think we've gotten an answer to that yet. And hopefully in this legal opinion that Mark has requested, some of these tax questions will be addressed.
That question might have been posed to the auditors. I'm not sure if they responded.
I'm not sure we ever got an answer. I would like to get answers before my constituents continue to put money into somewhere they don't live and can't vote.
Mark?
I got one thing to explain to Carol. Carol, what you're looking at there is what's happening in Springfield. It's been passed by the House, passed by the Senate, and it's waiting for Pritzker to sign. If he signs that, that puts it into law. But that does not exempt it from the Constitution. That is the second prong of this. So it's to address other things so that if a county was to buy a piece of property to build a fire station, another school, they have 5 years to develop it, or they have to sell the property. But it still has to meet the Illinois Constitution. Even if he signs it, it doesn't make it, it will not make it exempt from our taxes.
Didn't say anything about making it exempt from the taxes. You know, you lease property, you just
It
put the
doesn't
taxes
meet
into the lease.
It doesn't meet the public purpose of the Constitution.
Right, like the airplane hangars out at the airport, the leaseholder pays the taxes on them. That's a whole different authority. So what is the language that you guys are referring to that you had a conversation about over here that you're talking about?
Just that the Senate floor amendment.
Okay.
Part of it says, the county board may lease farmland acquired or held by the county for any term not exceeding 5 years, removes the requirement that the lease must be for a specified purpose, provides that the lease may be made via a cash lease, crop sharing arrangement, or custom farming arrangement, adds requirements relating to the bid process for farmland leases, and provides the counties shall not acquire farmland for the sole purpose of entering into a cash lease, crop sharing arrangement, or custom farming arrangement, or other specified purposes.
So you can't buy farmland.
You can't
You can farm it.
Yes,
But we didn't buy it for that purpose.
but we still have to.
No, and that brings up a unique point. We bought it for a purpose, and then that purpose went away in 67.
It also says that you can use it for the operations of the county.
What are, I'm just clarifying, what are the operations of the county that we're using that for?
We're not. Right now, we're not. Right, it's just being held, is my understanding. Right, the money's just held.
Yes, it's not earmarked for any particular purpose.
So if you can use it for the operation of the county, it don't have to be, why does it have to be appropriated or?
This is just, but this is new.
Is that in law yet? That ain't law yet. Pritzker's got
It's
signed.
been passed by both houses and waiting for the governor.
But it's my understanding that even it passed the House and the Senate, but it kept in place, there still needing to be a public purpose. That was not Am I correct, Mark? There still has to be a public purpose. And if that land was being used for a public purpose, then it would be tax exempt. So the fact that they have not allowed tax exemption says to all of us, or should say to all of us, that it is not being used for a public purpose. Because just to make cash to put in the bank is not a public purpose.
And therefore, we're in violation of the Constitution.
Yes, we are in violation of Illinois State Constitution.
Tim?
In fighting around this, it just seems to me that we're talking about the wrong thing. It's not whether or not we should farm it, it's how do we make it a public purpose.
Right. Yes.
So, forget about this, whether or not it's going to be farmed. If we still not to farm it, let's decide how we're going to make it a public purpose. Are we going to give part of the proceeds to the food banks, distributed evenly amongst the county? That would be, to me, a public purpose. Are we going to go out with the 4-H,
So-
whatever? That would be a public purpose.
So what they were talking about, like a park district or using it through the schools, or like a U of I extent, or U of I farm program, or however, research farm, however it may be, that is quantifiable public purpose. When you talk about taking the revenues and then donating it, well, now we're taking the revenues and we're going to put it in the general fund so we can disperse it back out. Now we have a problem with donations because you can't donate tax dollars, because once they go into the general fund, they're indistinguishable from one, if I have a dollar in my right hand and left hand. So I'm putting some qualifiers on how that public purpose is derived.
Okay, well, let's look at, what is the Farm Bureau thing where you donate grain? So much grain. I can't remember what the name of it is.
If I'm not mistaken, we would still have to have a budget for that.
Yeah, we were operating.
We wouldn't have any income to offset that.
But it would be a percentage. You would do a percentage.
If you could break it even, I'm guessing if you could break it even, may qualify.
Now you're getting the Investments Act.
Yeah. What you're saying is actually what we've kind of tried, what Mitch and Dave have tried, and believe it or not, previous committee just nixed it. Didn't want anything to do with it because it was not as many dollars as we're getting off of it now. That was the hang-up. Nobody wants to donate. They wanted to make the most money.
I don't know, to put a stop to this conversation, I'd be willing to donate it, the whole thing,
Tim, I think you're exactly right, though. We should be discussing how to find a public purpose use for that land. I think you're 100% spot on.
I mean, we've got it,
So I would
we need
say,
to farm it. And whether or not you think, it was said that driving a truck would be like driving a truck over a cemetery and disturbing, it's not the same thing. I mean, is driving the mower over the cemetery the same as, it's not. There's no malicious intent when you're farming something.
It's the disturbance of the soil. So when you make, and then the comparison is the case where individual drove to the Buick Cemetery, Buick Assumption Cemetery, that direction, and created ruts. That's desecration of the gravesite.
But that was malicious.
yes, that is.
Yes. Where this is not.
For years.
But I agree. We need to figure out how to make this suited to a public purpose.
Barbie,
Carol?
there are 25 other counties in Illinois that lease their farms.
25%.
I mean, there are only 40 counties that,
I passed 3 people on the way to this meeting that were talking on their cell phone inappropriately because someone else does something inappropriate we should too. Is that a good reason?
Can we call the question?
I would love to call the question.
Call the question. So the discussion and vote to continue farming the county farm property unless otherwise directed upon the recommendation of the farm committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes, nays, raise your hand. Mitch, Don, Lori, Brent.
Can we just roll call this? Wouldn't that be
Oh,
easier?
yeah, roll call. Roll call. So this is, An aye vote is to continue farming unless otherwise directed.
Okay, Mark Bennett,
No.
Teresa Bank,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
No.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaver,
No.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin. No. Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
No.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
No.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Shuff,
No.
Don Tate,
No.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
No.
Well, it's 10 and 10.
Oh, my God.
Motion fails.
Charles and me.
Davis.
Clarification on motion failing.
Yeah, so the motion failed to generate a majority vote, the motion fails. Item 14, discussion and vote to approve a resolution to change the hours of operation for a Class 5 restaurant license, Class B, to 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. Friday through Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sundays upon recommendation of the Budget Committee. Current hours are no sales between the hours of 11 p.m. and 9 a.m.
So moved.
Jeremy makes a motion, we get a second by Martha. Any discussion on this?
Why? Like, who's the impact, right? So within the city limits, correct? This doesn't affect city limit.
No, no.
So then I guess who are we impacting possibly?
We have Castaways and Jackies.
So it benefits them?
Yes.
Okay.
It lines up hours.
What do you mean?
Gives them hours that match the city liquor license hours. Because right now theirs are more restrictive.
Is it the same as in the city limits then? Is it going to the same as city limits?
Yes.
It's not gonna be for long. It's just gonna match the hours. The license is allowed.
Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Matt, no. Who else? Clay, no, and Tad, no. Teresa, no.
So 4 nays.
4 nays, motion carries. Item 15 is discussion and vote to adjust the liquor license fee to $7.50 to coincide with the 15-month fiscal year adjustment period from 9/1 to 9/1/23 to 11/30/24 upon the recommendation of the Budget Committee. Entertained motion by Dave, second by Martha. And what this does is, since we are changing our fiscal years, rather than having somebody pay a 3-month fee to carry us a little ways, and then turn right around in 3 months and pay another fee to carry them the rest of the fiscal year, it puts them all together. And this is, when it comes to like terms and fees and things like that, it is up to the discretion of the county to set those and establish those, so. Cody.
I don't believe that we should be adding any money on. We are the ones that changed it, and I think that that punches the building, or the owners, I'm sorry. I think we should just move it through and just let them have that 3 months.
Okay, that's,
I guess it doesn't add any money?
Well, if they're adding on for 3 more months, we are the ones that did that. So they,
Well,
wait a minute.
it's $600 a year. We're going to a 15-month budget. So we're just adding the 150. Then they'll go back to a 1-year cycle when it'll be the same.
It's the same monthly fee since we're going from 12 months to 15 months for this one term.
Yeah, we're not.
right, but in my opinion, we did it, we should just waive it and just let them.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Me.
Cody? Nay. Item 16 is committee reports. Any committees like to, Julie?
Well, I guess this is committee. I met with Kevin Busher from CEFS today for a training thing, and he wanted me to let the board know that they appreciate the support that we provide, but also they're working on making referral, I guess, booklets, I guess they're going to be called, for all the county. I mean, all the information will be in this booklet for all 7 counties that they serve, including Shelby. And the hope is that the board members will use that, take it out to the community as a resource for referrals for some of the low income or families, in need of their services. So I think he said July. So hopefully I can bring those to the July meeting. If not July, it'll be August. They have 11 programs that they have funding for, grant funding for. They will lose some because of the COVID money stopping, but most of them have to do with food security, housing security, Head Start, daycare, and he just kind of wants us, or the board members, to consider areas where we feel the community needs their resources and kind of bring that to the CEFS board at the next meeting.
Any other committees? Carol?
Okay, the airport is doing very well, selling fuel. July the 8th, if anybody would like a flyer, is their fly-in and drive-in. Car show is from 8 to 5. They'll be having food, and drink vendors, a DJ, a 50/50 drawing, helicopter rides. They do need help with parking. If anybody would be interested in helping with this day, you can let me know, or John Hall. Many businesses have donated items to be raffled off to the participants. There's a young man named Taj McDaniels from Chicago that is meeting with this committee, helping because he does a lot of car shows. Paul Kennedy has started painting the main hangar by himself. He's doing the top of the hangar. It's quite an undertaking because of the logo. He has to prime it all around all the letters and everything. The EAA, which is an Experimental Aircraft Association chapter of Decatur, in agreement with the Lake Shelbyville Flying Club, offers a junior and senior high school student to apply for free flight lessons. And this year, Caitlin Funk from Assumption is that recipient. They hope that she'll be finished with her lessons in 90 days. It takes about 55 hours of flying time. There are also, these students fly 3 times a week, and they study their manual and take tests. And if they don't pass the test, then you don't get their license. There's also 2 new students who have joined the Civil Air Patrol Club, which meets on Saturdays. They're very busy out there, of course. If you have a chance to go out and see them, they really like to have visitors. So,
Any other committees? Mark, we'll come back to you, Cody.
Finance Committee, I will commend all the members for working so hard. It was definitely not an easy task this time. And we received several invoices after the date to be reviewed, and some of them go back to April, which I would appreciate it if they'd been a little more up to date in getting them claims to us. But we have been adjusted for some invoices we were missing, and I had 2 members review those as well as myself, so that it's not just myself reviewing. We usually take at least 2 out of all the members to review them.
So the legislative committee, just to reiterate, me and Julie are going to meet with Lisa and Natalie from ASME, and one of their other, there'll be 3 of them and 2 of us, for the quarterly meetings that have not been done in years between the union and the board. They are, I would assume they are excited. Natalie emailed the other day to make sure that we're good. So if there's any board committee members or that have questions with the union that they would like to bring up, please let me and Julie know, and then we can ask them during that meeting.
Cody, question for him. Just to clarify, this is just a way to communicate, open communication. There's not really, is it negotiating at all, or is it just?
Not really negotiating, but like with the pay raises.
Yeah.
That could be brought up and we can move the discussion.
So like if, let's say the Road and Bridge Committee made a recommendation, that could be brought there and you guys could talk about it. It's not negotiated, it's just,
we
hey.
can start the process of getting that accomplished.
Okay. Cody, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Jessica and Erica for helping the Highway Department while they do not have anybody there in the office. So that's coming to an end, thankfully, coming up here. We are going to have a special meeting on Monday. It is going to be interviewing 5 or 6 people. So we don't plan on any action or anything, or voting on anything, other than we're just going to open the meeting, close the meeting, and go into interviews. But I just wanted to make that public announcement that that's going to happen on Monday here at the second level courtroom B on 5:30 on Monday.
Well, I said I was going to try to make that one, but I've got a 911 meeting at 5:30, so I won't be here.
And I guess I'll add this. If anybody who's not in the committee wants to come, would you please just let me know if you want to sit in? And I ask that you just let me know in advance so we can kind of plan for it. You don't have to let me know. But I mean, you're welcome to attend, but I would say keep in mind, you know, when there's 22 people staring at one candidate, it's a little overwhelming. So that's why I want to maybe coordinate that with you a little bit. So everyone's welcome, but we have to also take into account logistics and things.
To clarify, board members, because it's a closed session, so it is not actually open to the public. Is that what you're saying?
We're just going to open it, close it, and the board members who would like to participate, just please let me know in advance. That would be helpful. You don't have to, but that would be helpful.
Any other committee reports? Hearing none, and chairman updates. Just got notification today that we are in compliance with the federal government in the SAMS program for GATA, so that means that we are. Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. So, starting from the top, we're in compliance with the federal government in the SAMS program for GATA, which means that we are registered, we are established with a new address, which is here. It actually was over at the zoning office. So since we've gotten all that paperwork finally fixed and remedied, we're achieving this GATA compliance. I did get a call today that from the gentleman from Prairie Power that they completed their archaeological survey and their stakes are still out there. He's gonna try to remove them here in the next week or so, because it looks like the week's coming on pretty quick. And their state areas, they came up with nothing to be found, so they can proceed with the project and contracts and things moving forward here in the next few months to get things set up for their project to go through. What else has happened here lately? That's about it off the top of my head. So we'll move on with appointments. Item 5, I'm going to skip due to the necessity for legal counsel to look into the whole investigation of the Board of Review in terms of the Board of Review. So we're going to skip that one. Up next is Dr. Richard Brown of the Airport Landing Fields, commissioned for a 3-year term. Jeremy, seconded by, wait a second, Julie. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Next is John Hall to the Airport Landing Fields for a 3-year term. Dave makes the motion, seconded by Clay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Next is Dr. Doris Bowers, County Health Board, 3-year term. A motion, Julie, seconded by Lori. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we have a conglomerate of Kenneth Fry, Greg Miller, Maria Schaefer, Dave Ogden, Mark Shanks to the Shelby County Tourism Committee for a 1-year term at the request of the Tourism Director, Freddie Fry. Any motion? Jeremy, seconded by Julie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I'm going to skip the next one. Number 19 is correspondence. 20, old business. Anybody have any old business?
Did you mean to skip?
Did you mean to skip 2 of those?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a message, last meeting there was discussion about solar farms as a public purpose. There was a meeting Monday night, I believe, with the zoning committee, and they unanimously voted down allowing solar farms and wind farms. So.
Zoning committee.
You're
talking about
is it planning?
Planning Commission?
Yeah, whatever Doug said. Did I get the wrong name?
Was it Board of Appeals or Planning Commission?
I think it's the planning Doug's on.
That was Planning Commission.
Yes. And they unanimously voted down allowing wind and solar farms.
I have a question about that. The meeting that I went to, that the new person over in zoning said the law was the law for everybody, and it didn't matter what you said, the law states this is what it is.
I'm not saying that
I didn't go to
that's
that meeting you're talking about, but I went to the one prior to that, and he told everybody in that room, the way that law is written, it applies to everybody.
okay, I'm just updating I told Doug I would pass on what he told me, and that was if they voted it down.
I know there was some other people in that room besides me that heard that. I can't even think of the zoning guy's name.
The way I understood it was they just didn't have the information in time. They didn't have a chance to look through it. That was their problem with it.
Okay.
So this was Planning Commission, and they did what now?
Doug sent me,
They voted against wind and solar
wait,
on
hang on,
what?
let me get till I have his exact words so that I don't screw it up again. That he wanted me to share that on They had a meeting last Monday and made a motion to not allow solar or wind farms in Shelby County, and it carried with an unanimous vote by their committee.
Is that the zoning person?
That's the planning
Whatever
commission.
committee does,
It's the steps of zoning ordinances. You start with the planning commission and you go to zoning board of appeals and on to the full board. So I'm not exactly sure, I guess I need to review that, so I didn't.
That's why I'm bringing it up in old business. I told him I would tell for people who
Yep.
needed to know, so it's
Very
been
good.
told.
We'll follow up for sure. Any other old business?
Question, do we have an update on the subdivision issue yet?
Negative.
Okay.
Any other old business? Item 21 is approval of claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mark, second by Don. Any discussion on the claims? Teresa?
And are we gonna pay them all? The ones that I got a note on, I took the bill from Leach Wilson's in for the one for the rescue squad that there was a question on. And that was one that hadn't been approved, and then there was one, are the taxes gonna get paid for the farm?
I wish to amend the claims.
Pardon me?
Motion to amend the claims. Second by Lori. What are you amending the claims to? How long, Lori?
We got some late claims. There's 16, actually 17 invoices. One we were lacking, which has already been approved, but we didn't, the committee lacked the invoice. So you have that one. The others, 16 pages, are from the coroner. And I had a couple other members view them as well and sign them. And there's 16 pages. Do you have a total on it by chance?
Make it 17, I'm sorry.
No, but I told him he needed
I
to
don't
submit
I
the
don't
week
understand
before,
that.
not the day before.
I don't understand that.
Because I question how that should be an open meeting
So I don't know if that's an
when
ongoing thing or not.
they're not reviewing
Board fee.
with the posted agenda. So,
There's no fee.
Yeah, we're getting, some of these invoices are actually from April, so they should have been turned in last month.
and I don't know, he may not have gotten them, I don't know. But yeah, he didn't bring them in until right before I sent it to you.
Yes, so I think it was what, 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, something like that, or yesterday morning. And I'd be paid to not get them paid because they go out and we don't want charges. Toxicology, $149, invoice with it. Autopsy, $185. Okay, that's received. Another autopsy, $185. Mileage, $36.02. Mileage, $10.37. Mileage, $7.20. Mileage, $11.13. Death investigation, mileage, $10.21. Autopsy, $2,000, which is usually $1,000 for each one. I believe, yes, there's $1,000 for 2 different cases, for a total of $2,000. Morgue fee, $498. Oh, and that's all I have.
So
That's 10.
the amendment will be to add the invoices and the claims that have been spoken in the record.
Correct.
Still want to second that, Lori?
It was 10, it was 17. You're taking out 17.
No, it's 16. Oh, I'm sorry, Leach and Wilson for $450, automobile repair.
which the committee had approved, so long as we could get a copy of the actual invoice prior to the meeting, which we got. Thank you for bringing that over.
Yeah. But I'm confused about what we're not paying.
We
We're
did
not
not,
paying the taxes on the farm ground, we pulled that. We had a bill, the whole MyTech bills, which if you got the meeting minutes, they were all, it was all outlined on the meeting. I don't know if you've had a chance, because they were sent out, right?
yes.
The finance committee, yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them, but we went line item by line item and line item of what got pulled from that. And there was a late fee on a bill from the circuit clerk's office that we approved the bill, but not the late fee, and made a request for the circuit clerk to call the vendor and explain our billing process, and if we need to amend the billing cycle, do that, so we're not suffering a late fee every month.
So for clarification, we didn't pull the stuff from MyTech. It'll just be reallocated, right? So the departments were essentially being charged 2 times what they should have been, so we reallocated their funding back to their bill, amended their bill or their payment, so it reflected the proper amount.
So how many of those were there?
Well, those were approved. Those were already.
Okay, I'm out. I'm lost.
We're just explaining.
My second doesn't count.
Those were already approved in our minutes.
Somebody else can do this.
I'll second President.
So the amendment is to add the bills that were spoken into the record, seconded by Martha. Any other discussion on paying the claims? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
Yeah,
Cody Brandt,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole, Julie Edwards, Martha Kornhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Warren,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Schwartz, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion to approve the claims as amended. Actually, who had the motion to approve the claims? Mark, who seconded it? Martha. So,
No, Don, you talked it back to the original.
back to the original. Don
Yeah, I
seconded.
seconded the amendment, Don seconded.
Don made a second on the original. Roll call on the original as amended.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Banks, Cody Brandt,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole, Julie Edwards,
yes.
Martha Kornhaber,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Matt Kessler, Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson, David Ogden,
I did not say anything. I did not.
Say yes.
We're paying the bills.
Yes.
as
As
amended.
amended.
We read it,
What he
and
read.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, those things. I'd like to open the floor up for public body comment.
Before we do the public body comment, I have a question. Are you skipping number 5? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Can you explain to me why?
Because there is, we need counsel on this. Because board review by statute, and Lori referenced this in the last meeting, is to be appointed by the board. And there is no statute that allows an elected board of review unless you have a population of so high. So the question my question is, does a referendum stand if there was a referendum in, what, 91?
1981.
81.
Twice it was voted on.
So go ahead, Lily.
I asked last month, and I'm going to read this so I get all my details in there. I asked last month how the second and third vacancy would be filled regarding the statute 35 ILCS 200/6-5, and the department head said she didn't know and could not answer my questions, and we would need legal counsel. I reached out to the state's attorney. I have not gotten a response back. I've spent the last 3 weeks reading and rereading the 420 pages of tax code, and asking questions along with others asking questions to find out the process, the requirements, and the legal obligations in order to be in compliance with current law that I read last time that says any county under 150,000 population. This week, the county's standing to elect a board review member, or possibly two, has been called into question by others. It's in my obligation for due diligence. I've reached out to our state's attorney. I've communicated with 2 other counties' offices, with a dozen others who are knowledgeable of the statute and the legal parameters, including 3 lawyers who specialize in tax law at the Illinois Department of Revenue today. Many of us do not see how Shelby County had a legal authority to hold a referendum in 1981 to make those seats elected on the 1981 ballots, whereas today, and the previous state statute are clear, a county with our size population is to be appointed. I don't see how there's anything that rectifies elected and appointed when the law seems clear today. Now my questions are focusing around compliance. Since I have not received any confirmation that the referendum was lawful to elect and the statute is clear towards appointing, based on our population, I would ask, how are we to comply with the questionable actions from years ago versus the statutes that stand today? I want to believe that each one of us on this board wants to do the right thing according to what the state law is today and comply with today's statute, because we were sworn in, we uphold the law today, and I would move forward with clarity on this and other matters that are being addressed tonight, and I would hope that you would all agree that we would want to comply with state statute.
What counties did you talk to? You said 2 other counties.
Mm-hmm.
What 2 counties did you talk to?
They're neighboring counties.
What 2 counties?
What does that matter? You can call them. What are you wanting to know specifically?
What 2 counties did you talk to?
It's not a secret. You can call any of the other counties.
Well, that tells me.
I don't.
Okay, and what
They don't
supervisor
set
did
the
you
law.
talk to
They
about
don't
the
set
board
the law.
review?
They are to follow the law, and I asked
What supervisor
them.
did you talk to about the board of review?
The head department heads.
Who's the department head?
The assessment, the supervisor of assessment, and then a former
She's not the
supervisor of
supervisor
assessment.
of those people.
Well, they're the people sworn in, elected, or appointed, sworn in to follow the oath of the statute. Who did you talk to? Did you talk to the lawyers from the state? I mean, I'm not sure who you talked to.
Will you tell me
I
who
would
they
like
are?
you to tell me where the state statute does not apply. That's my question. I read the statutes. I've read them over and over and over. Where does it not apply?
Okay.
Thank you.
She talked to 3 attorneys of the Department of Revenue.
Okay.
3 attorneys of the Department of
She
Revenue.
just wants to know what.
That was her name. Bobby.
Can you tell me?
Please.
Jeremy.
Lori, in all honesty and with all due respect, if your information is correct and you've researched it, which I trust, then there shouldn't really be any problem citing your source. I mean, not that you have to, I'm not saying
The
you have
county clerk
Okay.
that I trust to be top-notch and honorable, as they've proven through their records, who actually used to hold the supervisor assessment role, because I don't know the current supervisor assessment role in that county. And then another person who's been recognized at the state level for their leadership in their role, who's a supervisor of assessments.
Okay, but you're being asked questions that don't undermine your point. There
And
shouldn't.
several lawyers. I don't know all of their names either.
That's okay, but you're being asked questions that don't undermine your point, and there really shouldn't be a problem with saying who you spoke with.
If the person she spoke with wants to be anonymous, let them be anonymous, and it doesn't matter who she called, she's standing on state statute. It's irrelevant.
They both recognize state statute, and that's what I'm looking for. Where is it said that we are not to follow the current state statute for a county of our size?
And that's fine, I agree with that absolutely.
So
I just.
the who is irrelevant. The point is.
I think it is.
Okay, moving forward. Matt?
And maybe Lori, nobody can answer this question, but I'm curious, what are some ways to cure this, to remedy this? Lori's talking to me.
I think just following the statute would be the way to remedy it.
I think that's what she said, she's asking our state's attorney for a legal opinion, and that's why Bobby skipped it,
How to
because
proceed, okay.
we need guidance on how we undo what was done incorrectly, and how do we rectify it before we start appointing.
I would ask the same thing, because it does matter to an extent how the appointment is processed, which is why I asked last month when there was time before the board review would actually be expected to meet. Because there are taxpayers who actually need to have the board of review assess, like, view and review their taxes, their tax bills. There's a form called a certificate of errors that needs to be filled out in a timely manner. That's the point of the board of review. Those things need to be done. That's why I asked last month when the vacancy was to be made known.
Okay, so real quick on the floor, I'll recognize Jessica, then we'll go to Teresa and come back to that.
I did some research on this issue, and in 1981, there was a referenda. However, it was done by petitions filed by 2 taxpayers in Shelby County. At the same time they filed the petitions to make the Board of Review elected, they also filed petitions to make the Supervisor of Assessments elected. She filed an electoral board hearing, she took it clear to the Illinois Appellate Court. Her name got thrown off the ballot, but the Board of Review stayed on. Now, in 1983, the Supervisor of Assessments, I believe another taxpayer filed another petition to make that office elected again, and it was put on the ballot, and she was elected. And I went to the public library and researched old newspapers to find how this all came to play. Because unfortunately, we don't have to keep things forever, and that I don't have that information in the office, but I remembered, so I went to the library and researched newspapers. It was like, I've done all I'm gonna do, it's not my job to research this, but just for my own satisfaction, because I wanted to know how it ended up on the ballot, and that's how, by taxpayers' petitions. It was a big deal, something with Lake County, something with the new farmland assessment. There were also petitions filed at the same time in Vermilion County to make those offices elected there. Pat Quinn, who went on to be governor, was the attorney representing this group, so that's kind of how that all came to play. Right, wrong, and different, that's how it became elected.
I know you've been diligent about it.
So,
thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Teresa.
Just a comment. You've tabled this. The lady that thought she was going to be appointed has sat back here all evening. And why you make her sit through all this, I think is very rude. Point.
I'm taking, okay.
I didn't read how many pages.
It was 407.
Okay, I read 6. Because I'm an underachiever at some efforts. But I will say in my 6, I think the answer probably lies in the 6. I don't know that for sure, but I will say that page 1 and page 5, in my opinion, conflict with each other. I don't understand it. And so, obviously you've done much more research. I can't find a solution, so I do think it needs some additional help, some additional review. Because again, it doesn't give, it talks about counties less than 3 million, but then it talks about a parameter of between 100,000 and 3 million. And then it doesn't talk about anything less than 100,000, right? So what's applicable in here, I gotta be honest, I don't know. If anybody can tell me the definition of a commission county, it's a starting point.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the definition of a commission county? Because the answer might be in that paragraph. I don't know, but I don't know what a commission county is.
That's in the
I'm not gonna go with that.
See, I didn't go far enough. It's apparently.
It's in the other pages.
So,
It's on 7, page 7.
Page 7 held the key.
We might find an answer. Do you have an answer?
I think, if I remember correctly, there's 3 different setups of counties in the state. There's home rule, which is Cook. There are, I think, like 70 or 80 some others that are township-based, and the rest are commission counties. They have commissioners. It's a different setup for a county, and we're not a commission county.
Strike that, that paragraph doesn't apply. So Zelda's key is still missing.
Tad, to your point, the referendum is what complicates this.
Yeah, and I get it, but I try to find other solutions.
Yeah.
I can't find
Applies to other statutes as well.
No.
Did our supervisor of assessment say that if we don't have an operating board of review, we are possibly not going to be able to levy us taxes?
That's what she said. So the board of review is appointed inappropriately. That is the board of review, that every review they do nullified. So the question is did you do anything? I think we better find out what our train of attack should be.
That is my point.
Yeah. And I would like to move forward and open the floor for public body comment. Public body comment. Sharon.
My question was, that last month I thought you said you were close to hiring a county engineer, and now that's not close to hiring a county engineer? Last month it sounded like you had somebody ready to go. It was all about these extra bonuses and stuff.
Sharon, we had somebody in the candidacy portal, but they chose to stay with their current employer who counteroffered.
So we're still looking.
Yes.
Okay, so then on the admin assistant, and I know we went back and forth on they need to get paid according to what other counties in that position. So my question is, what is her pay? What will her pay be?
It's $25 an hour.
25 an hour? Okay. Okay, and does she have a job description so she knows what's expected of her?
Yes, that's in the employment contract.
Okay, okay. And I know you guys put in a lot of hours, you get a lot of paperwork, you've got a lot of committee meetings, and I know what the pay is, it's nothing, I understand that. But everybody on the board has been here at least 7 meetings. And for a board member to sit there and say, is the farm being farmed, that is, you guys should be embarrassed if you have a board member asking that. That's ridiculous that was asked tonight. Is the farm being farmed? You know, shame on you guys. And it's not everybody, but if you can't do your homework to be there, then step down and let somebody that wants to be on the board be there.
Public body comment. I have Mr. Cole over here.
Yeah, I would like to know why the public's given this sheet of information on what you're going to decide. But of course, we're not able to say anything until after the meeting's over. So what good does this do us? Now, the time before, we had public purpose before the meeting, and you got tired of that. I know that the public has a right to say what they think before these things are decided. You did not listen to anyone in the audience before you guys made your decision tonight. And I'm not very happy about that. And Kirk, I can tell you why we don't have a county engineer, because you ran him off. So the county engineer was, had no right to smirk off the face.
This is a
Public comment gets directed to the board.
Yeah, we're talking to the board, you can do that in the hallway.
The reason we don't have one is during that time that he was here, he got us over $24 million in grants. The last 3 years he was here, I have all this on paper. I have it, all the records. The last 3 years that he was here, he gave us $7 million, okay? In 21, 22, and so far in 23, we can't even file for a grant. And I don't know why he was let go. Did you prove he did something wrong?
So he retired.
He retired, he wasn't let go.
He wasn't let go, he was retired. And he retired.
But he retired, he wasn't let go.
Please, in respect to the speaker, everybody just needs to listen to the speaker, and, you know, you can ask questions and we can get back with you,
I
but
talked to him and he wasn't ready to retire yet. He was scared. He got out of here because he was afraid he was going to get thrown in jail and something was going to happen to him. So now I go around to all these departments in the county. I've been to them personally. And these people are some of them in the courthouse are so scared they can't sleep at night. One girl says she's pulling her hair out. That's because they're being accused and threatened with lawsuits, and this is not right. that there's something really serious going wrong in Shelby County. And the way you treated people at the highway department, as far as I'm concerned, this is represented in the board meeting, they told you how they were treated, and this is only my opinion, that you shouldn't even be on a committee where you deal with people. Now, that's my personal opinion. You can take it or you can leave it, I don't really care. You got my wife where she wants to quit, you guys did. I don't blame her for wanting to quit. This is crazy about all this public purpose crap. Are you telling me that if a farmer has to pay taxes on his land and he gives that to the county, that the county can use that for a public purpose? I mean, are you the legal authority on public purpose? I don't do it. I'm just giving my opinion, and I hope I'm sure I have a right to be given. But what I see happen is just nothing but pandemonium, and people arguing with each other about nothing. And if you're going to decide to do something on this farm, then take it to court and let's let a judge decide what you can do and what you can't do. Let's don't discuss this among a whole bunch of people that don't have any idea what they're talking about, and I don't either. But let some judge someplace decide. Don't let Mr. Hanlon decide. He decided somebody was guilty in court yesterday, but they weren't. I mean, what is all this crap? Stop it. Everybody's yelling and screaming at each other and threatening each other and making fun of each other and laughing at each other. I mean, this is just complete pandemonium to me. I'm 81 years old, and you can throw me in jail, or you can sue me, or you can do me whatever you want to, but I still have a right to my opinion.
Absolutely.
Jay, real quick, I'm sorry. When you initially came up, you said you had something on the agenda to address. Did I miss that?
We're going to address it before you already...
No, so you didn't have anything on the agenda to address?
Yeah, because you already decided what you want to do, and you didn't want to listen anymore. Somebody didn't want to listen to what the public had to say.
Okay, override comments. Over here. Please identify yourself. Who are you?
Tammy Smith. Just have a couple comments. I was originally going to speak about bipartisanship this evening. You know, I've identified myself as a Democrat most of my voting career because that party adheres to my personal beliefs. And I understand that to get on a ballot, you all had to declare a party. Once you are elected, that party should be second and your constituents should be first. You all swore an oath to be bipartisan to all the constituents of this county. When you accept it, you say you are going to be an advocate for everyone. That's how it should be. And I'm exceedingly upset that our ARPA funds are being sent to McHenry County to scan documents that I'm sure there are capable individuals right here in Shelby County that could scan those documents. We don't know what documents are being sent up there. We don't know if they're going to come back. Who's taken them there? Who's being responsible for logging what is taken there? And how are we going to get them back? And will we get them back? And the other point that I wanted to speak to was having a CPA firm outside of this county receiving our tax dollars to do our annual county audit. That is ridiculous. We have certified CPAs, licensed CPAs right here in this town. Our money should not be going up north. It should stay, if it can't stay in this county, or in this town, or this county, it should be spent in another central Illinois county to support each other. I don't get it. That's it. Thank you.
Public body comment. Yes, please, identify yourself.
Rob Hammond, and I'm speaking just for myself this evening. In 2018, in the general election, the majority of Shelby County voters in this particular board district elected my friend Patricia Kinsel to serve on the board of review. It just so happens that she ran as a Democrat. Now, we're in a situation now where no matter if it's appointment outright or appointment to through the partisan political process, I'm not a part of it. I'm not on the Democratic committee. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know who's on it, truthfully. But the point of it, what I'm trying to make here is, no matter where the appointment originates, where what the basis for it is, you know, the taxpayer still elected Patricia Kinsel, a Democrat. She stepped aside. We've got Lavon Cheney right here who is ready, willing, and capable to do whatever she needs to do. You know, all the certifications, and which the lady from Weequa mentioned. So I see no reason. Of course, I'm not an attorney. We've got a state's attorney down the hall that can answer it better than any of us, probably. Or maybe not, I don't know. We have somebody that has stepped up and put her name in. I don't know if anybody else that has. I know some other people that would be interested in it too, but you know, they haven't put their names forth. So we have somebody, and I see no reason why it needed to be skipped over. But again, it's just my opinion, and that's what it is. So thank you.
Public body comment.
Chris,
Chris,
that's all right, Bob. That's all right. Sure, a lot of people like to forget mine. I just would like to have some legal definition of public purpose from somebody on the board. There's been a lot of statutes cited tonight, and folks seem to be up on things. I'd like a definitive idea of what public purpose is from somebody. And if not this time, next time. That's it.
Quick answer. Department of Revenue declares tax exemption. It has a public purpose. That's just a quick snapshot.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of other things that go into it.
Okay.
Public body comment?
I just have
Sorry.
one last item. I was hoping to speak on the court firm this evening, but since that's been decided, I don't know that would do any good. But since the public comment was moved to the end of the meeting, I know previous boards had it at the end too. I just think that it would be nice if, you know, maybe there's some people out here that have perspectives or expertise or, you know, just other thoughts about things that they'd like to share. I had some things I wanted to share on the board farm, but it won't make any difference now. So, and it's nothing that nobody else can look up for themselves. So I think that was a shame, but I'll save it for whatever your next action is on the farm. Thank you.
Public body comment? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. Sonny.
I just have a
It's in the way.
comment.
No, I'm going to recognize her and then come back to you.
I just have a question. I've been to several board meetings. First of all, my name is Charlotte Watton. I've been to several board meetings. Usually, the public body comment is before all of the actions are taken. And tonight, it was so obvious that you skipped the public body comment and the action on the appointment to the board of review. And it just seemed like it was really orchestrated. And I find that very, very unfair.
Okay, now, go ahead.
Thanks, sir. The only comment I have, based on what Jessica stated, and I did look it up too, that there was a referendum in 81 and 83 for the supervisor and for the Board of Review to be elected. If you don't do that, then you're usurping what the taxpayers voted.
Yep.
That's my only comment, and that's, I think there'll be repercussions.
What if it's contrary to statute?
Some
Ma'am?
counties have voted that they elect. Some do not. Shelby County did, and it's precedent for 40 years. So the voters voted it twice. And I just am saying, you are usurping what the voters and the taxpayers voted on.
Public body comment. Tricia.
Yes, with the public body comments, when you didn't have them, number 3, you know, if you want to put them where you want them. If you want to put them last, put them last. If you don't, you put them where they've always been. But I think, I came up here tonight, I drive 15 minutes over here, usually I stay for public comment and go home to spend time with my family, and I watch the meeting. Later, I spent 2 weeks in a hospital with my son. And I wanted to come in here, say my comments, and go spend time with him. And so I made sure that there were arrangements that someone was around. But I come to these meetings because we have lost so much humanity in how we treat people. And I'm going to keep coming and keep coming. And I'm going to say the same thing over and over and over again. I don't care what. I've always been classified as pretty far right. I'm not left, if that's what you think. Never really happened. My dad's a minister for 50 years. My mom was a principal and a teacher. My mom worked for the Republican Party in the 60s. What I'm seeing out of the local Republican Party, that's not the party I would want to be a part of. How you treat people, how you react to people, and how you talk to the taxpayers. You don't have to like what we say. You don't have to agree with what we say. But if we can't sit and talk to each other in a respectful manner, we're lost. And we need to get it together. Thank you.
Hold it.
She's got a sick son
That's unfair, Brenda.
that's been in the hospital.
She has a son who just had a stroke. He's a mess. He's 19 years old, and she's been dealing with that.
I'm familiar, that's my sister's boyfriend.
Yeah, right.
So I'm familiar with the situation.
She deserves.
Public body comment.
I mean, I want to say something on the road bridge committee, and I'm not going to condemn anybody here, but that truck you guys talked about earlier, I was on the road bridge committee, there was money there, it was appropriated, it was bid out through the state to get that good price, and I don't know where the money went, but I do know that they had a track hole that went down about 20 or 30,000 fixed. That was after I was off. And the same way with the grader, the transmission went out of it, and it cost $25,000. There was only one used one in the United States. There was no new parts for it. That's how old they're getting. And these guys that's on the road and bridge better wake up on that, because you're going to need some equipment out there yet. And that transmission came from the state, if I remember right, Oregon or Washington. $25,000 plus it had to be trucked here. So that's where probably part of that money went, but it was appropriated. That's all I want to say.
It's good then that we use the ARPA funds.
Public body comment? Public body comment.
Bob,
Yes.
you as the chairman set the meeting, you set the agenda. Is there a reason why public body comment was moved to the end?
No, I don't set the agenda. The agenda has a general format. So I don't set the agenda. Just set that straight.
Okay.
The reason for moving public body comment to the end is I'm going to guess there's probably 1,000 people on the opposite side of that camera that would like to know the business of the county as well. And you're here, and you have the full obligation to speak, and we're recognizing public body comment. So we've accommodated all of our requirements. Anyway. So that's why.
You've opened up the public body comment, but I'd like to say to everybody, I think a lot of the frustration with some of the public is the lack of transparency from this board. When you do things in a sneaky manner and try to do things on the side, that makes people think you're trying to hide something. If you do it all out in the open, they don't think you're trying to hide something. Thank you.
Public body comment. Public body comment. Public body comment. Motion to adjourn. Lori, second by Cody. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I appreciate you.